Hello and welcome to NXTGEN Racing, the home of clean and fair sim racing for all. Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to an all new season of the NXTGEN Racing Touring Car Championship. That's right, the NXTCC is back once again and we are here to kick off tonight our 10th season of the Premier Touring Car Series, which hosts racing around the world on a weekly basis. Well, it has been a weekly basis, but we switched to a fortnightly format for this season and there's plenty more of a considerations to install with an all new season. But I'm jumping way ahead of myself as we welcome you to this live broadcast from Circuit side as we make our way into the season opener here for our 10th season. Our decade season, a commemoration of a series that has run for the best part of 3.5 years, almost coming up to its 4-year anniversary here on the Premier Sim Racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. And this series, powered by none other than Doble Motorcycles, is back once again to try and identify who is the master and mistress of the touring car racing machine, or indeed front engine, front wheel drive. At 10 rounds or 8, and with our drivers all heading into this one looking to go for gold, we have 55 competitors who have signed up across our Pro, Prime and Am classes, and as well as the Teams Championship out there, we are going to be some absolutely titanic battles out on circuit, and come the end of it all, we will be answering that question of who is the king or queen of them all. But as we come into this round, we welcome you to this live broadcast from Circuit side as you tune in tonight on one of 3 media platforms available for your viewing pleasure. Indeed, you can be tuning in right now via the NXTGEN Racing official channels, which include YouTube. Go to youtube.com and search for NXTGEN Racing or NXTCC, and you can be tuning in there and enjoying the likes of none other than Joseph Wright TV, who says, let's go, and indeed, let's go, Joseph. But you don't just have to tune in there on YouTube. Alternatively, if you're more of a Facebook fashionista, you can always tune in via Facebook at facebook.com/groups/NXTGEN Racing, and hello to you guys and girls tuning in via Facebook. And lastly, of course, we do have the broadcast platform available on Twitch. It's the unofficial broadcast available at twitch.tv/Paul Walsh Productions. Indeed, in the commentary booth, I'm back once again, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Walsh for the uninitiated, the man behind Paul Walsh Productions, and I've been hosting and bringing you all the racing for this series ever since its inception all those many years ago. And I can tell you one thing, there's nothing quite like bringing a smile to my face than when I do hear the thought of NXTCC being back. And indeed, the time consumer there in the YouTube chat screams out loud, NXTCC is back, lads. And indeed, it is good, sir. And I can tell you one thing, this is the one thing we've all been waiting so eagerly for, myself included, and I'll be bringing you all your racing action as it unfolds over the entirety of the season. But as we come into this round tonight, we have made our way back in time. We've gone back to 2008 for the Silverstone Legacy Circuit. Indeed, the circuit that many say is their preferred version of Silverstone, albeit given away gradually to the more modern layout due to safety concerns with the racing speeds and machinery taking it on, particularly Formula 1 getting faster and faster. But indeed, this circuit right now really does encapsulate a time where speed was something that everyone pursued and safety was perhaps a bit of a second-hand consideration. But as the drivers take on the Silverstone International layout as it back then was in 2008, they're going to need to take on also some very wet and windy conditions here. But then again, you'd expect it. It's winter time, and also we are at an airfield, and therefore it all adds together to create a circuit where the speeds will be quick, but also the conditions are treacherous, and who will come out on top across our 3 races. In terms of our schedule, times in Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinate Time, UTC, as we can see in approximately what will be 17 minutes time, we'll be making our way into our first qualifying session of the season, 15 minutes in duration, after which we'll then see our drivers make the way to the grid for the first of our 3 races. Race number 1 is due to get underway at what will be 20 past 8 this evening, all of them 14 laps in duration, after which we'll take a brief breather before returning at approximately what will be about 5 past 9 this evening for the build-up to race number 2, which is due to get underway at 10 past 9, and then we'll have another brief breather before returning just before 10 o'clock for the build-up to our final race of the day, and that will be race number 3. But as we're getting ready to get underway, as we also say hello there to Mark Wyness, who I believe is cheering on the Track Scotland team. A good evening to you, Mark, and I hope you're doing well. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's tell you what you're in store for this season, because there's a lot to get through, and we haven't got too much time. So, in terms of our schedule, firstly, what we can see here is that we have moved once again to a 2-week format. Last time out in Season 9, we followed the official BTCC, the British Touring Car Championship calendar, where this series had been spawned off for our enthusiasm for the BTCC, and indeed, therefore, we wanted to follow it as close as possible to the programme and letter. So it was a United Kingdom-focused season last time out, and whilst it definitely was a fantastic season, we heard the calls from many of our drivers, and also you guys and girls tuning in as a spectator, saying, why can't we go back to some international circuits? And that's exactly what we've done. What we've also done is to make sure there's not as much of a breather between the races as that we've gone to our own calendar. We are racing every 2 weeks, and that way we can keep the tempo high, but we don't burn our drivers out by racing weekly. We give them plenty of time to practice. We give the admins plenty of time to make sure everything's in place for what is going to be an absolutely spectacular season, and this is how we settled. And today, we come into the season on Tuesday, the 13th of January 2026 for round number 1 at the Silverstone circuit from 2008 at its international layout. But looking further down the calendar there, look at the eclectic mix of circuits we do have. Firstly, of course, after Silverstone, we make way to Japan. It's one of 2 visits to Japan for this season. For the Fuji International Speedway, firstly, the Grand Prix layout there, making its first debut on the calendar as of Season 3. And many of you may remember the absolutely incredible debut in the Pram class of Russell Fowler there. That was going to be on the 27th of January. Then into February we'll go, and we'll be seeing the debut of Portland International Raceway, the American circuit that recently arrived in the iRacing simulator in the second half of 2025, and we'll be taking on for the first time its Grand Prix layout on the 10th of February, after which we'll then make our way to Italy, back to the European continent for a brief soiree, and it will be there that we bring out the Autodromo Nacional Monza, the Monza Grand Prix circuit, but in NXTCC tradition, we'll be doing it without the first chicane, so that incredibly long run, all the way from the final corner, all the way out to the second chicane. And then on the 24th of February, we'll be able to see which of our drivers is going to be the king of the Need for Speed. Then we'll be making our way to Australia for round 5 of 10. But you'll notice a little star next to round number 5. Why is that? Well, on the 10th of March, by popular demand, we are bringing back the endurance race round. We saw you all absolutely loved it the best part of 3 or 4 seasons ago when we did have our endurance races on the calendar, where we did have a 20-minute race and a 40-minute race. However, for this season, it is going to be one race worth all of the points that 3 races would add up to over a single night, and in round number 5 it will be Mount Panorama circuit that plays host for that, and it will be our 60-minute endurance race round. More details on that when we get there, but that's going to be one to watch. Indeed, that might be harking back in a little bit in a way to what might be the endurance races of the Super Touring era of British Touring Car Championship, and indeed many of you may remember the Snetterton night race all those years ago back in the 80s and 90s. But that will be the first half of the season, but we won't be stopping, because on the 24th of March we then make our way to the US of A for a triple header starting at the Watkins Glen International Cup circuit. We go there once again for the Fast and Furious laps in the state of New York. Then we'll be making our way all the way over to California, and we'll stay there for 2 rounds. Round number 7, we will be in Southern California for the Long Beach Street Circuit. It's Grand Prix out on the 7th of April, which made its debut all the way back in Season 2 of the series. And then we'll be heading to Sonoma. That hasn't been on the calendar for some time, but it's a good time to go back to Sonoma on the 21st of April because it's been recently refurbished on the simulator, and all its newer layouts and newer asphalt have been added, and we'll be seeing our drivers take on the extraneously long cup-long layout, but it's going to be a fun one out there given the fact that Sonoma has delivered some incredible racing in the past. Then we make our way back across the Pacific Ocean on the 5th of May for our penultimate round, and it will be the Mobility Resort Motegi that plays host for its Grand Prix layout. Indeed, it's been a long time since we visited there. I think the last time we went to Motegi was back in in Season 5, if my memory serves me correctly, after which we'll then be making our way to Belgium. But it won't be for the traditional Circuit Zolder. It'll be the one we absolutely love, the alternate layout with its fast final chicane, and there we'll be conducting our final race of the season and bringing the curtain down to declare our champions on the 19th of May. So an absolutely brilliant calendar for this season, and indeed, you asked for it, and we're giving it you, ladies and gentlemen, a full international calendar and some incredible racing ahead. So without further ado, as we make our way into what is this round, well, let's talk a little bit about our host circuit for today. It is, of course, the Silverstone circuit from 2008, the international layout, focused on now what is considered to be the back end or the national side of the circuit, but back then it was the international side of the circuit, well before the Hamilton Straight was conceived, and as our drivers will roar around the Silverstone circuit, located near the village of Silverstone and Towcester in the county of Northamptonshire in England, the United Kingdom, well, they'll find that this circuit, the best part of what is a grand total in terms of its mileage of none other And then what will be approximately 2 miles is going to be a circuit like no other for them to conquer straight away, because it's got fast flying bends, including the infamous Cops Bend at turn number 1 and the run in towards Maggots at turns 2, 3 and 4 before they curve the way all the way down towards the Abbey Hairpin at turn number 5, now defunct, no longer there, and then they'll make the way back up the Farm Straight and into Bridge and Priory, the 2 corners that have been removed as a result of the new layout of the Silverstone circuit that arrived as of 2011, and then they'll head into Brooklands, and it'll feel like just from home of no as they head through Brooklands into Luffield. And turns 8 and 9 and out of Woodcote they go to complete the lap and do it all over again. And a huge thank you to iRacing.com, not just for the brilliant simulator, but also the fantastic track maps that come with it. But with an all-new season, we talked about our venue, and we've got plenty of rule changes for this season, and we're going to go straight to them, because here they are. So, setup-wise, this is still a fixed setup series. We haven't changed away from that. However, in the big red text, you'll notice that drivers may choose this season to run an option setup for one of the races in a given round, subject to the following parameters, and the table there really outlines it. They can't run the option setup in qualifying, and the idea behind this option setup is to provide a little bit more race pace in the car compared to the standard setup, but they can only run it once in a given race over the entire night. They can't run it in all 3 races or 2 of them, just the one. But the conditions must be, for race number 1, you cannot be in the top 5 of the overall championship, nor the top 3 of the Pro-Am championship, nor the leader of the AM championship, and we update that going into race number 2, whereby if you've run the setup already in race number 1, you can't do it again for the rest of the evening. Alternatively, you can't have finished 5th overall or higher in race 1, nor can you finish 3rd or higher in the Pro-Am class in race 1, nor can you have won the AM class in race number 1. That'll be applying to race number 2. And in race number 3, so long as you haven't run the option setup at any point in the night, you are permitted to run it. Race number 3 really is the free-for-all with the option setup, but of course choosing to run it earlier may graft you some extra points, or be the expense of perhaps a bit of a pace differential towards the end of the race day. But note at the very bottom there, if we've got wet conditions, if a race is declared wet by our admins, then the option setup is not available to anybody. And the whole idea behind this is to encapsulate the option tyre that is seen in the British Touring Car Championship, which is of course the preferable tyre perhaps because it offers more pace, but it can only be used once in the 3 races of a given round. And we brought this to the table to close the distance even more between our drivers and keep the championship very much alive all the way to the finish line. Now, in terms of other rules, well, most other rules have not changed. Sprint race-wise, because these are 3 sprint races, the race 1 grid is set based on results of qualifying. That's a given. The race 2 grid shall be set based on the results of race number 1, so whoever wins race 1, they start on pole for race 2, and we set the order accordingly. As for the race 3 grid, it'll be a reverse grid based on the results of race 2, but once again we'll be reversing the position somewhere between 13th and 23rd, and we'll be cut into the commentary booth while we bring out the next gen racing lottery bowl, and I'll be drawing 2 balls out of the bowl, and that's where we'll reverse the grid from when we add them together. Now, each driver has 1 fast repair available in each race should they need it, and each race shall conclude primarily after the allotted lap amount, or should we need it after 30 minutes of racing. We do have our independent race director back again to steward the races for track limit infringements and the deployment of the safety car, and racing incidents shall be reviewed post-round. We also do have the return of success ballast. We won't go into this every week, but just to remind you, it is here once again, the very popular success ballast that keeps the racing entertaining, and it'll be applied on a race-by-race basis overall and in the Pro and AM classes for each respective lobby's class, or in this case we only have the 1 lobby as this season, having moved, of course, from what was the orange and blue lobbies of Season 9 back to a single lobby for this season. For qualifying in Race 1, the ballast will be applied based on the championship standings prior to the round, so you know what that means. The opening qualifying and race of today are arguably the best test of who's the best driver on the grid, theoretically speaking, because nobody's running ballast, and we look forward to seeing that because there's always a little bit of pride on the line. We know that Mikey Doble, for example, your 5-time defending overall champion, puts himself on the line with that one. In terms of race number 2, we update the success ballast based on the finishing positions of race 1, and for race 3, we do it again based on the finishing positions of race 2. And if we do have any drivers who join midway through the series who are a newcomer to the grid, then they will have a success ballast of 16.6 kilograms put in the car by default in order to make sure they can't join the series midway through and gain an unfair advantage. But with that, here are your success ballast values. They have not changed since the previous season, so we're not going to dwell on them too long. But of course, that very heavy overall first place, 56.1 kilograms of success ballast, makes its way back again, all the way down to 4.7 kilograms for your 10th place runner overall, or what is 5th place there in the Pro-Am class. Yams, of course, go from 24.5 all the way to 8.7 in terms of their top 3. And that's enough rules, regulation, everything between. we're all here for the racing, so let's make our way back to circuit side. And well, we are not too far away already from going into that qualifying session. We are only at the best part of about 6 minutes away, and as all the drivers tiptoe their way on around the circuit right now, well, what can we tell you? Well, it's looking as though several drivers here looking quite quick at the moment as Mikey Doble makes his way around there. And well, for Doble, it's definitely looking as though right now the all silver and shiny car, no livery on the machine as of yet for the Doble Sim Racing team. I think they're still working on getting that livery applied to the car, but we've got a few drivers out there right now with what is blind liveries on the cars, and I suspect we'll see some new liveries loaded when they do make their way into the qualifying session. But as we do look to Nick Clemens as well, he's coming on around, and right now your number 13 driver here definitely looking to be in the groove as he's currently in 7th of what is your runners overall. We do have, in terms of number of attendees here today, we do have a grand total of what is 49 drivers who've made the trip, which is absolutely brilliant to see, and therefore you can imagine that all of them right now will be very eager to make a good impression from the outset. But we'll see what they're going to be able to do, because we've got such a mixture of drivers who are both old and new, and therefore, understandably, several of these drivers might be thinking that they may be able to just put a little bit of pressure on their counterparts and peers and see what they're going to be able to do over that season. But as we do also have, I'm hearing in my ear, Sam Smith has just arrived on the scene, so therefore he's gradually making his way onto the circuit. We do look to none other than Joe Coffin here, the very silver machine, the 136 driver, and well, a lovely looking car out of that as well. And I do believe that is the Big Lips team there with their all chrome car. They'll stand out there, a new team to the grid for this season, and we look forward to seeing what they're going to be able to do, the Big Lips outfit, given the fact that they've definitely proven themselves to be, from what I'm hearing down the paddock, a team to be reckoned with. And well, that's not to say that they're going to dominate, but at the same time, understandably, they will be thinking they want to set themselves off to a good start and a good impression. And good impressions mean a lot here in the NXTCC when it comes to getting respect amongst your rivals and peers, because much like in any touring car championship, what starts off very peacefully, very quickly as the season goes on, you can imagine it is going to get elbows out, and the drivers will all be going attack from start all the way through to finish. We will see what's to happen between them all, as we do look to Roy Plummer as well, as our overlay just refreshes itself in the background briefly, ladies and gentlemen. You'll have to forgive for that, as Plummer trips his way on around the circuit. But as he does so, well, we need to get a word with one or two of our drivers, because I think a few of our drivers right now would like to have a chat with us, and we'd love to have a chat with them. And when we do get ourselves set, well, we'll see what's going to happen between all of them, because there are definitely several out there right now who are very eager to get the season off to a flying start. But we do in particular want to talk to one man who's returned from what has been quite a break away from the series, and that is none other than Andy Fox. Can we get a word in the car from Andy Fox with that very, very comical profile picture there? But that shows you that he's here to have fun as well as take things seriously. Let's see, ladies and gentlemen, can we speak to Andy Fox as we do try and get a patch through to his car? So as we get the patch through to the car of Andy Fox, Andy, you got time for a quick chat?
Always, Paul, always.
Well, Andy, it's great to have you back on the grid. It's been some time since we've seen you race in the NXTCC. I've got to ask firstly, how are you doing? Are you excited to be here?
Yeah, I'm loving this weather. No, yes, really good to be back. Had a bit of time off with a few personal issues, but they're all sorted out now and everything's happy and we're all good to go again.
Oh, fantastic. Well, you're back to go, and with that, of course, moving forward, have you set yourself any goals for this season?
None whatsoever. Try and survive. I mean, the rumours that I missed season 9 because Hyundai refused to sponsor me with engines anymore after how I performed in season 8 are totally unfounded.
Oh, well, indeed. Well, for a bit of context, ladies and gentlemen, Andy did seem to have some of the worst luck in Season 8 of anybody in terms of cars breaking down and everything going wrong. But it sounds as though at least Hyundai are willing to give you another chance. And with you're with a new outfit for this season as well, NXTGEN Orange.
Yeah, unfortunately, Duncan and Sam couldn't quite make it for this one. So, yeah, so I've defected over to the NXTGEN stable for now. We'll see how we go.
Oh, fair play. Well, with that, Andy, we will leave you to it and wish you the best of luck for the season ahead. Good luck out there, have fun, and hopefully we'll get a chance to speak to you later today.
Yeah, let's hope for a podium.
Oh, we'll take your word on that one. Good luck in chasing the podium.
Nice. Cheers, Paul.
So speaking there, ladies and gentlemen, to none other than Andy Fox, very happy to be back on the grid, and as he does so there, we do apologise for the liveries not loading quite as you expected. I do think we're having a slight technical hitch there, but I think we've got through that hitch, and therefore all the liveries are now back on the cars, and we need to look to some of our other drivers out there, including Wojciech Swiradowicz. He's back once again, albeit he's racing for a slightly different team this season. I believe he is racing for a newcomer set, which is Project 26, who are a new team, but some familiar faces. Swiradowicz is one of them, and we do have from all the way the US of A, and many of you may know this man because he races in America's own equivalent of the NXTCC, that is the Alpha Touring Challenge, and it is none other than Logan McKenzie, the man behind the Alpha Touring Challenge scene, and I wonder whether he and his colleagues have decided, you know what, let's give this a go and see whether we can take one to the Europeans in particular and the Britons. Well, if Logan and his team can, that's definitely going to be one of the stories that we look forward to seeing whether they can do so. But indeed, as we get closer and closer now to what is the start of this qualifying session, well, we had our chat with Andy Fox. We're not going to be able to get time with any of our other drivers right now, but I'm sure we'll get a word with them in between the races. Albeit we do seem to still be struggling, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, with some slight livery loading issues there. Not quite sure what's happened. We will try to get those fixed later on. Quite a few cars have decided to come out as quite chrome, but with that, it's time to go green flag racing, and so everyone's ready. We're ready for qualifying, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see who's going to put it on pole for the first time here at Silverstone International. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, it is 15 minutes. It is go, go, go for all the drivers. They all pile out the pit lane as quickly as they possibly can. But as they do, well, right now, it is definitely going to be wet. It's going to be challenging out there, and it's going to be 15 minutes, which are going to decide a starting order that may just have something to say about the way everyone ends up today. But let's see what the art of the possible is. There's so many drivers here as they all roar the way out. And we do look to Benjamin Gregory here in the number 113, the full tilt motorsport driver, who definitely one of our decorated drivers in the Pram class. He's back in the class once again. And understandably for Gregory, he takes a bit of a trip there to the cross. I think a few, oh, goodness me. That's Lewis Delmont following him off the road there. So both of them together. And, well, both drivers there, both in a bit of an escapade. Not quite sure what's happened to them, but a big slide loose there. And right now for Benjamin Gregory, it's a bit of damage to the side of the car. The same for Lewis Delmont, but I wonder if they'll be able to get away with that or not. Well, we will see. We'll find out in due course. Looking further back down the order. And what we can see here as well is that at the moment, Adam Wilson-Weir, new to the grid as well, racing for Mission R. He was very eager to get on the grid last season but couldn't quite do so, but he's here today and he's looking forward to giving it everything he can. And well, as he tries to come all the way round, we've still got a few cars there where the liveries have been a little bit shy from the broadcast. Not quite sure exactly what's happened, ladies and gentlemen, but we will see what's going to be happening between them all, as right now we do have Adam Wilson where they're heading on through, and all these drivers now starting to build up to their first flying laps. But as he follows the long queue of cars out there, what I was going to say about Full Tilt Motorsport is they're arguably the most decorated drivers, you could say, when it comes to the Hall of Fame of Pro-Am drivers, with Ben Gregory, of course, your Season 8 Pro-Am champion, and Ben Altrier on the either side of him of Season 7 and Season 9 being your Pro-Am champion there. But as they all come around for this first flying lap, well, it's definitely a much slower lap than they'd like it to be. Everyone's on the wet tyre. Oh, that's Dan Mould being ejected early on, and Mould right there going sliding off the road, and well, unfortunately it does look as though that's going to take some time for him to recover from. Thankfully it was just a light tap to the barrier. If it was anything more than that, I suspect he would be making his way into the pit lane quite quickly, but right now it does seem as though Mould getting himself back together here, and well, in towards turn one he comes. But again, we do apologise for the fact that the liveries don't seem to be loading. We're going to have to look into that after race number one, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, that's always the way, is it not, when you start off a season, that something might go wrong at some point, but it does seem as though some of our liveries have opted not to want to cooperate with us, and well, we will do everything we can to get them to cooperate a bit later on. Looking to George Stone, he's new to the grid as well. Welcome to George, and well, I can tell we've got a few fans of George Stone there in the YouTube chat in particular, including none other than what is, I do believe, And Berry Racing, or Jonathan Berry there, who says, let's hear from George Stone, take his interview virginity away there. And that's one way of describing his first interview of the season, and we'll definitely do that a little bit later. Oh, good sir. We also say hello to Conrad Kula there, who is cheering on Project 26. And, well, they do have Luciano Whitford, who is a regular you've seen on the grid. And here is Whitford in the Audi RS3 as he makes his way on around. So right now, Whitford will be hoping that he can go for gold here as he roars his way onwards. And we also do say hello to a couple more of you there, including Nathan Anstis, who, thanks to him, has pointed us out that we are having issues with the Twitch broadcast version of the stream, and therefore we will be relegated to YouTube and Facebook for the time being. We are going to look into that another time. And meanwhile, we also do say hello there to Roger Pike in the Facebook chat, who says hello and a very warm welcome back on our telly box. You've been missed, Roger and Angie. And well, Roger and Angie, I've missed seeing you guys in the chat, and we're very happy to have you tuned in today, and we look forward to seeing, of course, how your son Andrew Pike gets on in the Sim Racing Collective esports machine. He's currently the 8th fastest here, but he's still got a lot of work to be done if he wants to get up the order. And we also say hello there to Jitas28, who says good luck to the Type 2 racing drivers. Indeed, we do have Team Type 2 who are out there as well. But everyone right now heading on around. Joseph Wright, of course, new to the grid, and Wright being none other than our regular broadcaster and commentator for the likes of the Legend Series and also our MX-5s. And well, I can tell you one thing right now, he's gone from the commentary booth into a car, and I wonder here whether he fancies his chances in the YAM class of this season. We'll have to get a word with him when we can to ask him about what it's like to transition from being in the commentary booth all the way to out in the car and how he's finding it. But indeed, so many intriguing stories here. We've also got a newcomer in the form of Sam Exton in Fatlib's motorsport car. And well, all these drivers right now heading on around here, looking good as they get themselves set for what is another lap completed. Wojciech Swierdijk, he's currently the fastest of everybody at the moment, albeit his lap time of 37.67 is only faster by the best part of half a tenth, and he'll be hoping there's going to be a bit more time out there as Isaac Doble goes top and then Sonny Swierdijk goes top. This circuit is getting quicker. Luciano Whitford now tries to make it a 1-2 for the Project 26 team as he comes across the line, but there's going to be more time to find out there, including Isaac Doble, who's found a bit more as he's jumped up to 3rd. More time's coming in. Ben Gregory's leapt his way into 8th and then he drops back into 10th. And Ben Altrier now goes the fastest of your prime drivers out there. And for the uninitiated, how can you tell who's in which class? Well, firstly, on the window banners of the car, you'll see if they're in Pro-Am or Am, it will say so. Otherwise, if there's no lettering to the contrary, it means they're in the Pro class. But also in the timing tower and on our graphics on screen, what you can see is if they've got a green sash against their name, that means they are a Pro. If they've got a pink sash against their name, it means they're Prime, such as Benjamin Gregory. And if they've got a blue sash against their name, such as none other and Sammy Ariba, who's back once again this season, we look forward to seeing what he can put together in the AM class. Well, that means they are AM drivers. And as he makes his way across that timeline, well, not a lap to improve upon too much there. He does slash the delta to Sean Doby quite sizably, but it's a 41.0. He's still got more work to do, has Ariba, as he comes out of the corner. But onwards he goes towards the next braking zone, and as he does so, we'll very shortly be getting an on-board lap with one of our drivers. And in fact, as the rain seems to be coming down again here towards what is the final stage of the lap, still got the best part of 8 minutes or so left on the clock. And right now, Wojciech Swierdijk is going to take us around for a flying lap here of the Silverstone International Circuit. So making his way in towards Woodcote Bend, cutting as much as possible, avoiding the bollards, and now onto that timing line he comes. Down towards turn of 1 into Cops, looking to his left-hand side for his brake marker, braking nice and early in these wet conditions, braking about 130 metres from corner apex, clears the right-hander and then gets the throttle down. Now heading up towards turn number 2, getting ready for maggots here, and well, as he heads along in the Hyundai Veloster, bringing the car into left-hander at first, and then straight lining, making sure not to touch the curbs too much, trail brake slightly, then drop it all the way to second with some further braking, going nice and deep into turn number 4, and now back on the throttle here as he follows the circuit on round. All the way down towards turn number 5, he'll now head, and as he comes on down towards what is the hairpin section of the circuit, all the way in towards the Abbey hairpin, well, he's got a couple of cars in front of him, he's got a few behind, but he's not really gaining too much of a draft here as he heads hard onto the brakes, 150 metres from corner apex, down to first gear. here through that right-hander. Now exiting out, he's going full throttle all the way up towards turns 6 and 7. Here he comes in towards bridge then, and as he heads under the infamous bridge, which enables what is drivers and spectators to get in and out of the circuit. Now through that right-hander, up here he goes, and then into Priory at turn number 7. A very tricky corner here in the dry, let alone in the wet, but he nails it, and the traffic in front of him gets closer and closer. Onto the brakes he goes into what is Brooklands now, and as he does so, we'll switch down to first gear. Bit of a different line he's going to take here to try and not get too close to the cars in front, but he has to cut up the inside of one of them in the end. And well, second gear he goes all the way through Luffield now, and gets the throttle down little by little, up to third gear nice and early. But for Swierdijk, this will be a slightly compromised lap. He was on for a personal best in the middle sector, but his latter sector has lost out to a degree. And across that timing line he goes here, and for Swierdijk, it's not an improvement, but it was close. He was only a tenth of his previous best, as meanwhile, Luciano Whitford now raises the bar for pole position to a 36.739. So Whitford looking very quick as he continues on his journey here today, and well, heading on around right now. It does seem as though for Luciano Whitford, he's trying to make the best possible impression he can, and he's doing that perfectly at the moment at least, as Whitford now gets himself set for the next run of the corners. Looking further back to Adam Wilson-Weir, Weir right now, he's looking quite good in 15th place, and well, for Adam, it's now a challenge of can he get himself inside that top 10? If he can, great. If he struggles to, however, it might be one of those situations whereby he's therefore got to think a little bit more about what is to come. Now, you will have to forgive us, ladies and gentlemen, we're doing some technical support in the background. We are going to be reloading our liveries on screen, but as we do, we might have got to the bottom of the problem. It was particularly plaguing the Honda drivers, what we've been told, and therefore, hopefully, we will see all the Honda liveries join the rest of the lovely liveries on the grid, and what an eclectic mix of cars we do have here today as our drivers all come towards the final third of this qualifying session. We will see what's going to happen with those cars, as meanwhile, well, it's his birthday today. However, as he makes way onwards, celebrating, I believe, his 22nd birthday for Joe Doble. Right now, he finds himself all the way down in 27th place, and the number 11 driver, well, he'll be hoping for a bit more, but we have seen some up and down moments for Doble over the course of the last couple of seasons. In Season 9, there were moments of absolute brilliance, but there were also moments we seem to be a bit anonymous compared to his brothers of Mikey and also Isaac. But to be fair, understandably, I think Joe has been prioritising a lot of his real-life racing commitments as well over the last year, and I suspect that's going to continue because he has been competing in the BMW Nanking Compact Cup and doing very well alongside his dad Michael, and we wish him all the best should he plan to race in it again this year. I'm not quite sure what his plans are. I do know, of course, Mikey Doble. Indeed, many of us, I think, know that we're expecting him back on the grid in the BTCC with PowerMax racing again in 2026. Later on this year, despite all the difficulties that PowerMax have had. Speaking of Mikey Doble, where is he right now? He's currently in your second fastest machine out there as he makes his way onwards in the number 88. And I'm pleased to say that we do have our liveries back there, so we have got to the root cause of it. And a big thank you to our technical wizards, as that is wizardry there. The fact that Mikey Doble kept it on the road or thereabouts as he made his way up the hill in towards none other than Priory Bend, and in the end slid very loose, but just about kept it together. And now as he winds his way back down through turns 8 and 9, well, understandably, I think Mikey at this point wondering to himself, okay, where can I push and not risk falling off the circuit? Well, we'll have to wait and see, because it's definitely been a bit of a challenging one so far, but he is working hard on it, and he wants to take on Whitford, but he's just ahead of Swierdijk by a small margin. It is very much back and forth between these drivers, and I can imagine that right now, the pride on the line of taking pole position for the first time this season is definitely getting to some at the very top. But speaking of drivers up towards the very top, Adam Delman as well, NXTCC regular, he decides to duck into the pits there a bit unconventionally. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a bit of a telling off from the stewarding team with regards to that, cutting across the pit entry line at the last possible moment. That's not the way you normally want to do it, but he makes his way on down now, and across that timing line he goes. As he comes across it little by little, well, from him we do look to none other than what is Craig Twardock, who makes his debut in the XTCC, albeit for a familiar team in the form of the Sim Racing Collective esports team. He is joining Andrew Pike on the grid, and I can tell you one thing, the Welshman is an absolute weapon when it comes to the likes of what is GT4s and also MX5s in the TSRC official series, so I can imagine in touring car racing machines he's not going to feel too out of place, although he will have to get used to the fact it's front engine front front-wheel drive rather than just front-engine rear-wheel drive, which is a very different story. Now, we do also see Jetta Eli there saying, "Go Andy Cole and Mark of the GBRC," and saying, "Andy, don't botch the shiny new paint I gave you." That being in reference there to none other than Andy Fox, I do believe, who we caught up with a bit earlier on, had that good conversation with him. As we do look to Sam Exton, meanwhile, who's in a bit of a lonely state of the road, as he wanders his way in towards Maggots very shortly. And as he does so here, well, right now for Exton, it's definitely a bit of a clear road there. That can be quite helpful, particularly if you're still finding your feet and you don't particularly want the spray of another car right in front of you. But the Big Lips Racing Team driver here makes his way onwards. Well, heading on around, he's not got too many more laps to go, as we have Luciano Whitford into the pits. So I suspect that the Audi RS3 driver thinks he's done enough for pole position. That means now for Mikey Doble, can he find a way to strike back? Can he find a way to close down what is just over a tenth's worth of time? With Wojciech Swierdowicz meanwhile in third place. I think the wonder for Swierdowicz is, where is his time going to be found as well? All these drivers right now getting very close to the end of the session, as the number 80 driver here makes his way in towards turn number 1. He doesn't find an improvement that time, but he's close. He's definitely finding that the timeout there is becoming much harder to get, and I think that might be because of the increased rain that's on the circuit right now. We may have got to the point where nobody's able to improve anymore. And if so, well, that is going to put a pause and a bit of a break on everybody's qualifying performance now, unless anybody's all the way down the back end of the order. And what we mean by that is really the drivers outside the top 30 who might be able to put a miraculous lap together. Joshua Downing comes across that timeline. He's new to the grid as well, and he's not able to find anything. Matthew Jordan's yet to get a lap on the board, but I believe he was having some issues getting the car started in the pit lane. And in the end, the number 86 team for NXTGEN Pink have been able to get it done. And Jordan is out there right now, and he'll be hoping he can just get a lap on the board, because otherwise he'll be starting 50th. That'll be definite. If he can find a lap, he may be able to move a bit further up. He's going to get one more shot of it, and we're going to jump on board with Matthew Jordan as he tries to glide his way around what is becoming a bit of a swimming pool of a circuit here in the United Kingdom. So coming down towards what will be 2, 3 and 4. Matthew Jordan making his way from right into left, and now onto the brakes for the double right-hander. From 4th gear, he'll gradually tiptoe his way down to 2nd. Will he drop to 1st at the apex? The answer is no, but he's doing a very good job. In fact, he did do a brief drop to 1st just to rotate the car, and then went back up to 2nd immediately. A bit of a short shift there, helping push the car through in the corner, but not always helpful for the gearbox. Now coming all the way down towards turn number 5 here. Checker flag is out in this session, so our drivers are on their last qualifying laps if they're on one. And Jordan braking nice and early here in towards the Abbey hairpin, and down all the way to 1st gear. Very tight approach to the line there, decide not to let the car roll out wide, and that's going to compromise his exit line a bit, because he's had to turn the car more through the corner. However, conversely, it also means he's had a much more stable run. Into bridge and through the right-hander that catches out so many. Goes a little bit wide to the apex there to avoid the puddle, but now over to the right-hand side. Brakes nice and early coming into Priory. Down to 2nd gear here and keeping it together. This is looking a good lap from Jordan, to be fair. He is on a personal best in the middle sector. His first sector has not been anything to shout home about. Makes his way then through turn number 8 into 9, and I think he's using the car in front at the moment as a little bit of a slipstream stroke pace car magnet as he comes out of Luffield. Then car pulls to the right. Jordan will stay on, and now has he got the traction here? He's kept it within track limits every step of the way as he heads through Woodcote Bend. What's it going to be for Matthew Jordan here? Can he move himself up from 50th place, last of the starters? And the answer is going to be yes, he can. It's a good lap for Matthew Jordan despite the conditions. He puts himself 48th ahead of the AMs of Gabriel Yilmaz and Sami Ariba. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I think we are going to see, if they're not already, or drivers come into the pits now, because everyone has completed their final laps, minus perhaps Sean Dobie and also Fraser Rostance. Well, in fact, Fraser Rostance has parked up out on circuit, I believe. It's Sean Dobie and Alan McCain, but both of them know they're not improving, so they both decide to head into the pits. So your maiden pole sitter for this season is going to be Luciano Whitford, and he will be joined on the front row of the grid by Mikey Doble. And, well, be just like that when they go racing, most likely, except, of course, that's Fraser, well, not Fraser Rostance, that is none other than Alan McCain and Sean Dobie demonstrating what too wide in the pit lane looks like. In terms of your prime pole sitter, it is Ben Altrier, who starts off his season strong, just ahead of Kieran Smart by 2 places. And as for your AM pole sitter, starting 20th on this grid, it is none other than Stephen Fry, the more famous one, not the one on QI, and well, he'll be looking to go happily from there. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, well, the rain continues to fall, but the revs drop, and we are just going to wait the best part of a minute or so before we do head to the grid for our first race of the day. So as all our drivers make the way onto the grid then for our first race of Season 10 of the Next Gen Touring Car Championship, brought to you on iRacing and proudly sponsored by none other than Doble Motorcycles. It is Luciano Whitford for Project 26 with Alpha Touring Challenge, who has taken pole position, and the Dutchman starting off with a statement of intent, but he is joined on the front row of the grid by the 5-time overall champion of Mikey Doble for Doble Sim Racing. Wojciech Swiatek starts in third for Project 26 for Alpha Touring Challenge. Indeed, what a stacked team they are, and they're going for this season. But Ives at Doble joins from that second row, and the defending teams champions of Doble Sim Racing will be keen to prove a point. Adam Delmont starts fifth for Next Gen Green, ahead of Prime pole sitter Ben Altrier for Full Tilt Motorsport. Then it's Alex Meredith who starts seventh for Next Gen Orange ahead of Track Scotland. Your second place, Prime starter. Well done to Kieran Smart. And he'll be ahead of Lee Horn for Next Gen Orange, who then has Logan McKenzie joining him 10th on the grid for Project 26 with Alpha Touring Challenge. Outside that top 10, we then have Dan Mould starting 11th for Next Gen Green. Head of the Sim Racing Collective Esports is Andrew Pike. Both of them looking good in qualifying. Can they move forward in the race? Benjamin Greggy starts in 13th for Full Tilt Motorsport, ahead of none other than Michael Lees, with the JW Motorsports driver then being followed up by Adam Wilson-Weir, who on his debut, 5th in the Prime class there. That's a good start for Mission R. He's ahead of Craig Twardock, who's in good company. Indeed, both of them impressing on that 8th row of the grid. And then we do have Jamie Dory, 17th for Next Gen Pink, head of Stuart Wyness for Track Scotland. Alan McCain begins this one in 19th for Iris Esports, ahead of Stephen Fry, his teammate, and the AM pole sitter. Well done to Stephen for that. That's a solid effort. Then we have 21st in this grid, Sam Smith, ahead of none other than Wayne Douglas, with the Iris Esports driver following up his teammates and ahead of the Next Gen Pink driver by only 15 thousandths. Then it's going to be George Stone, who on his debut for Mission R starts second in the AM class. Well done to George. That's impressive. He'll try and take the challenge to Stephen Fry early on, and he's going to be in the company of Team Big Lips' Sam Exton, who makes his debut 24th on the grid, the highest of the team members, because behind him is his teammate Joe Coffin, who starts 25th, just ahead of Nick Clivins, 26th on the grid for Iris Esports. Joe Doble begins this one in 27th for Doble Sim Racing, seemingly struggling in qualifying in these wet conditions, ahead of Lewis Delmont for Next Gen Green, and then it's going to be Carl Thompson for GBRC and Lewis Mason, who starts in 30th, rounding off your first 15 rows of the grid. Behind the Full Tilt Motorsports driver, he's moved from Aztec for Full Tilt for this season. We'll tell you a bit more about that later on. It's then going to be Scott Malcolm, 31st for Lumen Motorsports, head of Mark Sykes for Next Gen Orange. And then we have on row 17, Matthew Sheraton and Michael Clough, with the Aztec Racing and Next Gen Orange drivers being followed up by Next Gen Blues, Joseph Wright, and he'll be in the company of Mark Hughes for GBRC, and indeed the Miltech Civic Cup racer, who's definitely proven that age is not a barrier to success. Phil McDougall starts in at 37th for CXR Project Black, ahead of Mission R's Joshua Downing, with your top 40 completed by Jack Brown on his debut and Andy Fox on his return. The Next Gen Green and Next Gen Orange drivers being followed up there by none other than Marcel Fritsch, who starts 41st for WS Racing Esports, head of GBRC's Andy Aldhouse, with Sean Doby 43rd for ATEC Tech Racing, ahead of Fraser Rostance for Next Gen Blue. Then it's Nigel Stock who begins today, 45th for iRace Esports, ahead of Roy Plummer, the Next Gen Blue driver followed up by none other than what is there, Adrian Fritsch, and I do believe fellow family member to Marcel Fritsch, but the Austrian starts 47th ahead of Matthew Jordan, with the Next Gen Pink drive being followed up last but not least on the 25th row of the grid by Gabriel Yilmaz and Sammy Ariba for Aztec Racing and Mission R. So that is the grid, ladies and gentlemen. It is almost completely set, and that means we are almost completely set for the first of our 3 races to get the season underway. All the drivers are in position. The rain continues to fall here in Silverstone, but I can tell you one thing, Silverstone and rain, it's a potent combination, but what is also a potent combination is Mikey Doble and Luciano Whitford on that front row. It's going to feel as though it's a short run towards turn number 1, but which of these 2 drivers is going to be the one who leads all the way into Maggots? We're not too far away from seeing them all go green flag racing, ladies and gentlemen. We're just waiting for the last one is car or 2 at the back of the grid to give the thumbs up to say they're ready. And then we will be go, go, go for the commencement of Season 10. And intriguingly, Carl Thompson has decided to start this race on the slick tyre, whereas everyone has gone for the wet. Will it work out? It's time to find out. It's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5. Firing lights! And it's lights out and away we go for our season openers. They all go to pull away very slowly indeed. And who can get the traction here as Mikey Doble starts to get an advantage on Whitford. But Whitford goes defensive into the opening quarter here. 2 wide they enter, and behind Swiatek immediately trying to reinforce his teammate. Rolling the way and through. Further back meanwhile, it's an absolute scattering of cars as some are braver than others. Kieran Smart immediately going on the offensive. Lee Horn taking it a bit safer. As meanwhile, George Stone has already leapt ahead of Stephen Fry in the battle for the AM lead. And all our drivers are safely on through. through the opening corner, and onwards they go now off into the distance. But as they come in towards what will be Maggots, you can see there your leaders right now. Well, they've decided to settle into one-line formation as Dan Mould finds himself in a little bit of a scramble versus Andrew Pike and Logan McKenzie just in front, and Mould falling backwards slightly there in the next-gen green machine with Jamie Dory right behind him. They'll be familiar with each other very quickly. Looking back to Alan McCain, he's had a good start to this race, already gained 1 place overall and in the Pro-Am class, with George Stone right behind him. Stone's really enjoying it. Oh, there's been a big incident further back. Car to the barrier. I believe that's Scott Malcolm. Yes, it is. Oh, my goodness. And it's added to there by contact with none other than Carl Thompson, the GBRC driver. Well, in fact, that's not Carl Thompson. That's Adrian Fritz. My apologies. And Carl Thompson comes up behind them. He's been involved in some separate altercation. But Adrian Fritz there really having a nasty baptism by fire in this race, as we've got a black flag for a jump start for Lee Horn. So Horn leaping his way all the way up the order, but he's not really gained any places. He's just held on to ninth place. Black flag means he's going to have to come in for a drive-through penalty that must be served when 3 laps are being awarded. So that's going to be frustrating for Horn, as the next gen orange driver right now will know that things have not clicked. But all these drivers continue the way on through, and as they do, well, we'll see what's to come next for them all, as we do look to your leaders as they charge away towards the end of lap number 1. So it's 1 lap complete, and after 1 lap, it's Luciano Whitford who leads ahead of Mikey Doble, followed by Wojciech Swierdajc. That's your top 3. Isaac Doble sits in 4th place, just ahead of none other than Adam Delmont. Then we do have your prime leader of Ben Altrier in 6th, being cheered on there by Time Consumer, no doubt, in the YouTube chat, as meanwhile Alex Meredith sits in 7th ahead of Kieran Smart, your 2nd place prime driver. Lee Horn and Logan McKenzie complete the top 10, but remember, Horn will need to serve a drive-through penalty within the next 2 laps. Otherwise, he will see that drive-through penalty upgraded to a disqualification from the race, I believe. Further down the order, best the rest is Andrew Pike, but Stephen Fry is now your leader in the AM class. Where is our AM leader of George Stone? He's suddenly fallen off the road, and meanwhile we've got more cars off the road as Nigel Stock comes into the thick of the fight, and I think that was Nick Clibbins being ejected for iRacing Esports powered by Crest Autosport, their name in full. And well, as our driver's made the way through, well, right now Nigel Stock fighting hard there as he gets on past Sean Doby. It's definitely been a bit of a shake-up here in what's been the opening couple of laps, and I think these conditions just catch you drives out as we've lost Kieran Smart from the running order. Is that a sign of a technical issue that's come about? I think it might be, because Kieran Smart is dropping down that timing tower, and I believe the cars had to park on the side of the road. And if so, well, that's absolutely ruinous there for Track Scotland. After a brilliant start for Smart, it's all gone backwards very quickly. But meanwhile, what's going backwards for him is going forwards, as that's a car spin. That's Adam Wilson-Weir, who's gone flying around, gives us a 360-degree pirouette, rejoins gradually. Car on the grass down the inside, and there's contact. That is going to Adam Wilson-Weir and I believe Michael Clark coming together, and the turn right now, we're going to end up gradually creeping outwards there. They will eventually rejoin on what is now known as the Wellington Straight, but as they come back together, well, that was a bit of a nightmare moment. Hand on chest and over mouth, and heart in mouth as well, and it all went rogue between them. But now we've got a big scramble of cars here, all trying to make their way onto another lap, and this is the big fight essentially for what is 16th place. Alan McCain's trying to run away from it. Meanwhile, Michael Lee's just crept to Joe Doble and Lewis Delmont. But as they all head onto the brakes here, well, right now, 3 wide on entry. That's not going to be easy. And the big ellipse machine there gets caught up. He goes spin off the road. That's Sam Exton, who goes sliding on out there, and I believe Sam Smith getting caught up in that as well, but to a lesser degree. And right now Sam Exton going to spin off in the rear of the picture. We've got a car off the road as well. That is going to be, I believe, the car there of none other than Sean Doby taking a trip for the worst at turn number 1. He gets it back together when he can, but my good lord, there's definitely been some big moments at the start of this race, and we're going to have to get some replays of those in short order. Thankfully, we can start to get some replays of those in a minute or two, as Logan McKenzie in 8th place meanwhile, well, he's trying to make sure that nobody else progresses beyond him as the top 7 are starting to step away. But meanwhile, McKenzie here, he holds on to 8th place and keeps Andrew Pike, Jamie Dewey and Dan Mould queued right in behind him. So with that, we're going to take a look back in time and take a look at some of the big moments as we've got a car parked up there. That is the car that's just waiting on the side of the road. I think that might be the car of Mark Sykes with some problems to it. And if so, that's a sad end to the race there for Mark Sykes. In fact, I think that's Alan well, I'm not quite sure. Is that Alan McCain? I don't think so, because otherwise if it was McCain, we'd have seen him drop down the order even quicker than that. But Alan McCain on the grass meanwhile, that's what we're getting confused with. There's a car parked there, and McCain's had a trip to the grass, and it's tripped our tyre tower out. But as we do see McCain making his way back on, he's dropped all the way down to 34 from the back end of the top 20. So McCain's had a nightmare moment from Bridge into Priory. It's all going wrong for so many, but it's going right for others. But with that, let's make the right call to go back in time and take a look at some moments in the opening couple of laps, including what happened to Sam Smith on lap number 1. So this was Sam Smith heading out of turn number 4, and onwards he went in towards the run down towards the Maggotts hairpin. And as he did so, well, these two drivers, well, in the end, he went out wide there and let everybody go. It was two drivers side by side, and that was Scott Malcolm trying to get involved there, as well as Wayne Douglas to name a couple. And Wayne Douglas then did make that work, but they all made it through together. Eventually, we then had a bit of difficulty meanwhile for Scott Malcolm. This is what happens, Malcolm, on the opening lap. So, got the power down, coming through turn number 4, up towards 5. A bit of contact there initially, and some further contact, and that turned him on around. And then Scott Malcolm at that point, where he rolled back onto the circuit, he held his brakes, but in the end, as he tried to get the car back off the road, Adrian Fritz tried to take the escape route to the grass, and that's what saw the two come together. Unfortunately for them, it meant it was really race-ending damage, but after that, we had even more difficulty. This was Michael Lees having a brief trip on lap number 2, and this was coming on towards a new lap, so made his way across the timeline, and as Lees came out of Woodcock Corner, in the end, having all the spray of the car in front from the iRacing Esports team, he missed the tarmac and went to the grass, but he got it back together just in the nick of time, and then ended up having to fight in the JW Motorsport car versus what was Adam Wilson-Weir. Then we had this for George Stone, the AM leader into Woodcock Bend. In fact, that was Stone side by side with, not Adam Wilson-Weir. We correct ourselves there. So Stone was there, battling with Lees and understeering out wide and making contact to Lee's car, and in the end being turned across the front of him. And George Stone find out very quickly how you can go from hero to zero when it comes to places in the AM class, and that will be absolutely gutting. Meanwhile, conversely, we had this for Adam Wilson-Weir in the Type 2 machine as he made his way up the hill. As he did so, well, the rear of the car stepped loose, and at that point, he was making the journey, whether he liked it or not, hit the barrier, car rolled on around, did a 360-degree pirouette, and then he gradually brought it back up to speed, but not about the whole field charge on through, and this is where Michael Cloyle came in, and then went off the road with him after making his own way to the grass. And so those are some of the big moments from early on in the race, and we've just had this happen to CXR Project Black's Phil McDougall, as he tried to make his way out of the pit lane, having just repaired the car for damage. Well, in the end, tries to get the power down the Audi RS3. There's a lot of standing water there, and well, it looks so in fact he was able to get it out the pit lane okay. So in the end, no issues whatsoever for him, but we come back to your live racing action, ladies and gentlemen, as there's even more to unfold before all is said and done. But the very front of the field, we can see Luciano Whitford right now doing very well in terms of holding on by 0.8 of a second versus Mikey Doble. As we say hello in the Facebook chat there to Arjan Kregel from the early days of the Next Gen Racing GT3 Championship, who tagging in Robert Dasunik in particular. And some of you may remember Robert Dasunik racing in the NXTCC for a season. I believe that was back in season 3, if my memory serves me correctly. And Arjan, Robert, I hope you're both doing well and you're enjoying the broadcast today. But as all drives carry on, well, right now our leader of Luciano Whitford is just gradually pulling away, and I think his game at this point is just to make sure Doble and Swerdutch cannot get close enough to put him under pressure, as right now I think just keeping a lap together on this circuit is more than enough. But Ben Altrier in the 504 here, well, right now the Hyundai Elantra driver, where we've got all of our other liveries back. Here's one is still in the car as well, and lovely to see that a new livery for the full Tilt Motorsport team this season. And right now the 504 driver here coming down in towards turn number 4, right in the back of Adam Delmont, and understand to be the Pro-Am 2-time Pro-Am champion, wants to try and make it free this season. As we say hello to Whiskey Runners Racing there in the YouTube chat, it says wet typical weather of the United Kingdom, and indeed you'd be absolutely spot on with that. But given the fact that we do run to the real life weather conditions on the day of the racing at the host venue, well, meanwhile Logan McKenzie here still holding on to 8th place, but he has Andrew Pike for close company, and these two have not met each other before on tarmac, I do believe, and therefore it's going to be interesting to see how they shape up, because both of them love touring cars to bits, both on different sides of the world. As we ride on board looking back from the rear of the Project 26 car of McKinsey, the number 4 driver here keeping Pike at bay, at least for the time being. But Pike is a very wily driver, as he recently celebrated his 40th birthday, but we like to say he's 40 years still young, or 18 years old plus 22 in value added age, or VAA, the equivalent of VAT in the UK. And as he makes his way on through turn 8 right now, well, he can definitely tell you one thing, age is not slowing Andrew Pike down, albeit he is not the golden oldie of this grid. We have got drivers pushing upwards of 50. I think we may even have 1 or 2 drivers in their 60s, to be fair, and then we have drivers all the way down in their early teens. That shows you the variety of ages we have here, but the NXTCC all-inclusive for all ages as well. And well, as they make their way across that timeline, McKinsey right now still keeping Pike at bay for a little bit longer, and well, I think McKinsey, based on his profile photo, he's going to have an even bigger grin on his face when he sees he lands a top 10 for his first race of the season. Back to the AM class, Lewis Mason has jumped into lead now. Mason has found his way past none other than Stephen Fry. Now, how has he found his way past Fry? That's a question, and we can give you an answer to that. This was back on lap number 4. Here is a replay. So this was in towards turn of 1, and Mason having moved from Aztec Racing to Full Tilt with Motorsport for a fresh start to his NXTCC career. Well, in the end, just a straight run there, and a very good exit out of the corner, coming out of none other than Cops Bend in towards turn 2, and just made it as straightforward as that. Well, I'll be a lovely move there, and well, Lewis Mason definitely making heads turn. As we come back to live racing, he's lost what is Stephen Fry. In fact, Joseph Wright now is 3.2 seconds behind. Wright is your second place AM driver and come all the way up from what was 6th place in his starting position and from 35th on the grid as everybody else starts to fight. And in particular, Stephen Fry right now getting elbowed out slightly there by Joshua Downing. So I think he will want to get back into this order as quickly as he can. He'll want to try and clear that Pro-Am driver, because what's happening is he's actually been forced backwards towards Michael Clough, who is looking to get a bit more adventurous with him. But albeit Clough at the moment, after that excursion earlier on, which saw him take a trip to the grass and then bring the car back on, everyone's definitely had their trips and what have been challenges here at the Silverstone circuit in this wet weather. But the fact we've got so many still going is testament to their ability. Although we have lost from this race Carl Thompson, also Adam Wilson-Weir, Andy Fox and Phil McDougall, but those we have lost, well, we'll surely see them in race number 2, whereas everyone else is keeping it together. Albeit not for Nigel Stock, as that is a crawling Hyundai Elantra, and I suspect he's been to the barrier at some point. And for Stock, this race has come to an abrupt halt as he tries to get it to the pits. But meanwhile, back to your front runner, Luciano Whitford right now, leading by 1.3 seconds. He's on lap number 8 of 14. And there's not too long to go in this one. He's just crossed the halfway threshold, so at this point, every lap now is going to feel as though he's getting closer to the finish rather than moving further from it. But further back, Logan McKinsey fighting with Andrew Pike. And they've started the battle. We were wondering when this was going to kick off. Not if, when. And right now, Andrew Pike on the inside there, down in towards turn number 5. He's going to use the brakes of the Honda to his advantage. The stronger brakes really making it a much more powerful car in these heavy braking zones compared to the Veloster, which is a bit of an all-rounder. A bit of a door rub between the two of them. And Jamie Dory right now, who we ride on board with, well, he's got the popcorn seat view here as he stays nice and close behind, looking for an opportunity to get involved. As the Albino Gorilla, as he's nicknamed by friends, family, and most on the grid. He also does support the hashtag #NotMyAdmin as the series runner. Well, right now he's just waiting and watching in the wings as he heads in towards turn number 8. And well, for Jamie Dory at this point, what's the game plan? I think it's to wait and see what the two in front of him do, as he's back to his Audi RS3 after that miserable season in season 9 with the Hyundai Elantra, the one car that's just never been his cup of tea whatsoever. He's back to a car he absolutely loves, and well, right now you can definitely tell because we've got Jamie Dory back to where we want to see him, which is fighting for top 10s, not fighting for scraps at the bottom of the top 20. And he admitted that himself. Season 9 really was a season where in the end it was about struggling with a car that just doesn't suit him. But as the Englishman comes through Cops Bend this time, well, you can see Pike starting to pull away a little bit from McKinsey, and Dory is now starting to get more and more bolder with his position here, thinking about an opportunity. As meanwhile, off camera, Ben Altria has passed Adam Delmont for 4th place, as Adam Delmont has had an off. And we come back on, but in 5th, as we leave this battle alone for a brief moment. And Stuart Winus, meanwhile, well, he runs in 11th place, or 2nd of the Pro-Ams, with Dan Mould right behind him. And Mould right now staying right with him, albeit these drivers, it would seem, are not really fighting at the moment. And instead, I think just waiting to see if somebody else makes a critical error. We're getting a bit closer there to McKinsey under braking. No way through for that move. And further back down the order, Nick Clemens taking a sneaky peek up the inside of Mark Hughes there, as Hughes giving what was Lee Horn a little bit of a push around the lap, particularly through turns 3 and 4. So Horn seems to be struggling a little bit. And well, for Mark Hughes right now, I think he's very eager to get the multiple time overall winner an opportunity to move forward. And well, as they come down in towards the hairpin, it's going to be up the inside goes Nick Clemens there versus Hughes. Hughes leaving that door open in the battle of the Audi versus the Honda. Well, the Audi's going to have the traction in the dry. In the wet, that might be a slightly different story. Just about keeps ahead of Nick Clemens now. We've got a car parked up there. Not quite sure what's happened. I think that is the car of Scott Malcolm. That's taken a bit of a pause. Yes, it is. That's Malcolm waiting to get racing again. I wonder if he's had a bit of a moment with the wall and perhaps he's just trying to get the car rolling. And if so, well, it's a very frustrating race for Scott Malcolm. He started off strong, but it's all gone a bit backwards since then. This long line of cars right now, this is really the long pack that runs all the way from your 22nd place runner of Joshua Downing all the way back to 34th Matthew Jordan. And Downing right now, well, he's 8th for your Pro-Ams, 22nd overall, but I think he'll be happy with his first race of the season in the fact that he's definitely proven to be the equal many a Pro-Am driver out there, and also keeping the majority of the AMs behind him in the Type 2 racing machine. And that's where you want to start if you're a Pro-Am driver. You want to make sure you're right in the thick of the Pro-Am class and that the AMs are not getting the upper hand on you wherever possible. But coming down into turns 3 and 4, you can see Sam Exton there taking a bit of a cheeky peek as the Lips driver makes his way through. Team Big Lips looking around the outside. Can he make this happen? Well, if he does so, as right now it does seem to be a bit of a struggle there for Michael Clough, who looks one way then the other. And Exton now trying to cut back round the outside here. It's going to be too wide all the way down towards the next braking zone as the Next Generation Orange driver goes defensive. And Exton right now with the dinosaur helmet goes onto the brakes. Looking all the way around the outside here. Is this going to work? If it does, it's definitely going to be a very impressive move to go around the outside in these wet conditions. And the answer is no. The Honda driver, I should say, is being held at bay by his fellow Honda counterpart. And Chloe right now doing a brilliant job of holding on to second in AM and also 23rd overall. And I wonder whether he's got his sights set already on the thought of perhaps 23rd for the end of race number 2, and it being a potential reversal position as Exton there trying to take a bit of a peek up the inside but not able to find it. From there we must go back up the order. We look to Wojciech Swierdowicz currently in 3rd place. He's got Ben Altria all over his backside, and right in front of him he has got Mikey Doble. These 3 drivers right now, they've already come together. Doble has fallen away from Whitford over the last 4 laps. Luciano Whitford with a 37.73 for his previous lap versus Doble's 38.53 and Swierdowicz 38.1, the same from Altria. Well, the writing's on the wall there. Doble right now is being brought back into the fold for the fight for second through to 4th rather than being allowed to chase down the race leader. So Whitford may have this one in the bag, but meanwhile Doble right now holding on as Swierdowicz dives at the inside there, and the Double Sim Racing driver has to give him the space to cooperate, but as the X out right now, Doble on that outside line will have the better exit, so he'll build up the speed here as we look back from the rear of your number 88, defending champion. He's decided to go with the number 88 rather than the number 1 for this season, and well, Swierdowicz looking one side then the other. Can he find a way in? The 80 driver right now, I don't think he's going to be able to. Instead, I think he's just going to have to wait as these drivers push each other just that little bit further. But what we can tell is that Mikey Doble, he's no stranger to fighting with Swierdowicz, the 2-time champion who took his champion crowns in seasons 6 and 7. And of course, that being sandwiched by championship crowns for both Mikey Doble in seasons 5 and 8. Remembering, of course, that in season 5, it was where Swierdowicz made his full season debut. And he pushed Mikey Doble every step of the way, all the way to the season finale, where in the end it came down to very small margins. And of course, in season 8 as well, we saw Swierdowicz with a partial season that season, also trying to keep Doble honest. And in season 9 we also saw Swierdowicz for the rounds he could make, definitely giving it all to Doble, but it was more of a taste of what was to come going into this season. Swierdowicz admitted it, the fact that really the rounds he was able to make in season 9 was more to see just exactly where his pace was after a bit of a break, and then get himself set up for the Season 10 campaign. And that's why he's here in full force with Project 26 and the Alpha Touring Challenge Group to see what they can do as they make the way onwards towards the end of lap 12. Further back, Adam Delmont, meanwhile, in 5th at the moment, ahead of Isaac Doble, and after being passed by Ben Altria because of his off-track, well, for Adam Delmont, he hasn't really been able to recover from that, and Doble is creeping that little bit closer. The young member of the family, they're diving under the brakes, but in the end goes a bit deep at the hairpin, but gets it stopped just in the nick of time, as Andrew Pike and Alex Meredith are fighting each other now. Alex Meredith's come out of nowhere in this race, and he's made his way all the way up into 7th place, and Pike right now fighting with him every step of the way. And in fact, it really should be said that Meredith, he's gone under the radar, now he's coming onto the radar because Pike and McKinsey are there to fight him, but something tells me that Pike and McKinsey are going to be more intrigued in fighting each other, as McKinsey has to back off there coming up through bridge. He's not going to be able to make it work, because there's a big knock to the rear there from what was Dan Mould on the back of your 2nd place prime runner, Stuart Wyness, who in the end goes up the inside of Jamie Dory. It's getting a little bit chaotic as Dory elbowed out there by Wyness, and now Mould creeps on through. So Dory pushed backwards there after what was a big knock to the rear of the Track Scotland machine. machine by the next-gen green Honda of Dan Mould. Well, they've got it all back together, and as they now head onwards, it is definitely getting a little bit more intense here as we're heading towards the very end of this race. But we've still got another 2 laps to go here and another 2 races after this, so don't count it over yet, ladies and gentlemen. While these drivers deliver in race number 1, you can imagine it's going to get even more exciting in races 2 and 3. And I think Dan Mould has now got the bit between his teeth after the ups and downs of the last few seasons. Well, the SRL driver there with Next Gen Green for this season now looking for an opportunity, but Jamie Dory says, well, how about I do the same to you, as he makes his way onto the inside for turns 2 and 3, creeps his way over the apex curve. That's bold from Dory, just about keeping it together over what was a massive puddle on the apex of turn 3, and now coming out of 4 where he goes very deep. He runs out wide, but he keeps him in track limits just about, and Dan Mould tries to go around the outside here, using the better handling of the Honda in these wet conditions, but Dory trying to get the power down in this Audi. They'll be too wide into the braking zone for the hairpin. But Mould will clear him initially, and on the brakes in that Honda, surely this has got to be straightforward. He must be able to get this done. But rolling just that little bit deep, and Dan Mould in the end, well, he is going to make that count as Jamie Dory will queue up behind him, and there is no way in. But looking further on back to your AM leader, here is Lewis Mason, still leading happily, with Michael Clough in second, and then it is Joseph Wright third at the moment. So Wright here has fallen back a little bit from second to third in the AM class, but the important thing is he doesn't have any fellow AMs behind him. He is in the clear. But then we come back to your leader overall. Luciano Whitford goes on to the final lap of this race. White flag is out, 14 of 14, and he is comfortably 3 seconds clear of Mikey Doble, who right now is trying to make sure that it's not a 1-2 for the Project 26 team today, and instead it's going to be a first and third for their debut race, and he wants to make sure that they're not going to be able to get that gravitas of momentum going into race 2, as otherwise that momentum may see them try to make it another 1-2 before they get to race number 3, where the lottery draw will really decide where they're going to be battling. But Ben Altria watches on from behind here, and Doble and Swearidike will name a more popular rivalry in this series. I dare you. As we ride on board with Swearidike, getting the power down, making his way up towards turn number 5. Does he find a way in at the moment? He's going to look one way, then the other. And of course, in this Veloster, a car that he's put a lot of faith in over the last couple of seasons of touring car racing, he's going to look around the outside here. Is it all for the switchback as he tries to get Doble to go deep? But Doble literally matches him for what is the corner apex approach. And now onto how they go once again. That Honda's just got so much traction compared to the Veloster. And Swearidike here looking one way, then the other. He is really pushing as hard as he can to get Doble to make a mistake, but Swearidike right now goes to the grass here, trying to follow Doble so closely onto the brakes as he just comes back off the grass. Doble parks it up and says to him, well, you can try that, but it's not going to work. And Doble going absolutely full defensive here, and well, understandably, he can just drag them towards the end of this race now. There's only real one racing line. Everywhere else is just slippery, and as they come through the final corner, well, meanwhile, this man, none other than Luciano Whitford, will be roaring his way all the way to a checkered flag, because in the season opener, Luciano Whitford gets off to a winning start here at Silverstone ahead of Mikey Doble, who holds on to second and spoils the party for Project 26 Alpha Touring Challenge. And Wojciech Swearidike has to settle for third ahead of your prime winner Ben Altria, who's fourth. Adam Dellant takes fifth ahead of Isaac Doble, with Alex Meredith then a further 12 seconds behind, holding on for 7th place, just ahead of Andrew Pike, Logan McKenzie and Stuart Winess, the runner-up in Pro-Am. But your 10th overall driver ahead of Dan Mould, with his best of rest status completed ahead of Jamie Dory. Joe Coffin takes 13th ahead of Benjamin Gregory and Craig Tardot, with Gregory completing the Pro-Am podium. But Lewis Mason gets his season off to winning ways with his new team of Full Tilt Motorsport by taking victory in the AM class 21st ahead of Michael Clough on his debut, and Joseph Wright completes the podium there, and it's a double podium for 2 debutants in the AM class, with Clough in second and none other than Wright in third. Well done to them, and we've still got a few more drivers to finish this race, including Gabriel Yilmaz for Aztec Racing, who comes home in a solid 6th place in the AM class as the rain starts to fall once again, 34th overall, ahead of Fraser Rostance, who chased him, and Mark Hughes the same, the GBRC driver, enjoying a good race. Andy Aldhouse in the end will settle for what was 10th in AM in his Nissan Primera livery day, what is dedication, and we do see him in 38th overall. And a couple more drivers still to finish this race, including George Stone, who at the start we seemed to have it all in the lead in the AM class, but an early incident here at Cops Bend between himself and Michael Lees was enough to upend that and see him fall all the way to 41st. And he gradually did recover over the race, but no higher than this place, and the Type 2 racing driver will know there's more still to come with another 2 races here in what hopefully might be a bit of burgeoning sum. But as all of our drivers cooling down, well, for Luciano Whitford, what a way to start off the season. A brilliant victory for the Project 26 for AlphaTauri Challenge driver. And well, by day, he might be driving a Mitsubishi Lancer Evo, as his profile picture would suggest. But for Whitford here, it is a victory in a Audi RS3 that will be a big smile as he gets out the car and celebrates. Ben Altrier as well, a brilliant win in the Pro-Am class in the end, just managed to pull away from the rest of his peers and never look back. And as for your AM winner for Lewis Mason, well, what a way to start off the season. The man who, of course, in Season 9, he was absolutely dedicated to going racing versus Nigel Stock in the Blue AM class. He couldn't quite make that crown, but the things he sacrificed along the way to be keeping in the running, including when he went on holiday, packing up the entire sim rig and in the end bundling it into a caravan on holiday, as I understand it. But Lewis Mason begins today, and all that hard effort is definitely paying off for him, as Chloe and Wright both come into the pit lane as well in the AM class to celebrate their podiums. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look to the scenic view, and with it, the race results, subject to any stewards' inquiries. So, after an absolutely brilliant, albeit wet, windy and soggy opening race of the season for round 1 of Season 10 of the Next Gen Racing Touring Car Championship, brought to you on iRacing and powered by Doble Motorcycles, Luciano Whitford took the overall win, in the end converting pole to victory for Project 26 for AlphaTauri Challenge, just ahead of Doble Sim Racing's Mikey Doble, who kept him honest at the start, but gradually fell backwards to prioritise holding on to second. Wojciech Swerdych kept Doble honest all the way through and put him under major pressure right at the end, and the two separated by less than 2 attempts, but the Project 26 driver could not quite make it a 1-2 for the team, instead having to make it a 1-3. Ben Altrier took 4th place, your Pro-Am winner there for Full Tilt Motorsport. He'll be absolutely ecstatic about that. He was ahead of none other than Adam Delmont, who took 5th. The Next Gen Green driver finishing just ahead of Isaac Doble, who came on strong in the late stages versus Delmont, but couldn't find a way through. And there was a further 12 seconds back to the man who put the cork in the bottle and made sure none of the places would flow. It was Alex Meredith in 7th place there for Next Gen Orange. The Sim Racing Collective Esports' Andrew Pike, he was 8th, head of Logan McKinsey, 9th for Project 26 for AlphaTauri Challenge. And then Stuart Wine has completed your top 10 there with 2nd place in the Pro-Am class. The Track Scotland trial was followed up by Dan Mould, best of the rest in 11th place for Next Gen Green, ahead of Next Gen Pink's Jamie Dorey, with Joe Coffin in 13th place there for Team Big Lips, ahead of Benjamin Gregory, who rounded off your Pro-Am podium there. It was a double podium for Full Tilt Motorsports in the Pro-Am class, albeit not quite a 1-2 either, much like the story of the overall podium. And then Craig Twaddock completed your overall top 15 for TSRC Esports, and on his debut was not too far behind, taking home his first Pro-Am podium of the season. Joe Doble finished in 16th, ahead of Lewis Delmont, with Matthew Shurton, Michael Lees and Wayne Douglas completing your top 20. And behind the Next Gen Pink driver there, we got to see 21st, was your AM winner of Lewis Mason. The Full Tilt Motorsport driver be absolutely ecstatic with that achievement, and knowing now it's upwards and onwards he goes as he looks to try and make it 2 from 2 in the next race of the day. Michael Clough was not too far behind him, 2 seconds adrift, runner-up in the AM class, 22nd on the overall road for Next Gen Orange on his debut. Well done to him. With Sam Exton in between the AM podium finishers, the Pro-Am driver there for Team Big Lips, hoping for a bit more in the next race after a good start. Joseph Wright there completing the AM podium in 24th for Next Gen Blue, made a good start from 6th place in class all the way up to 2nd, couldn't quite hold on to it in the end, but he did hold on to 3rd, and a first podium on his debut. Well, the number 2 driver there will be absolutely smiling. Lee Horn took 25th for Next Gen Orange, ahead of Mission R's Joshua Downing, with Jack Brown, Stephen Fry, Nick Clemens and Matthew Jordan completing the top 30. And it was a bit of woe for Iris Esports powered by Crest Autosport, with all their drivers finishing towards the tail end of the top 30, if not just outside of it, including Alan McCain there in 31st, Marcel Fritsch 32nd for WS Racing Esports, and then the iRace Esports team continuing, Sam Smith in 33rd. Gabriel US took 34th, ahead of Fraser Rostance, who in the end managed to keep off the intentions of Mark Hughes to the end for GBRC, and it was Mission R Sammy Ariba ahead of Andy Aldhouse, with Sean Dobie and Roy Plummer completing that top 40. Outside the top 40, still more to come. George Stone there was the last lead lap finisher, and it was a lap down there for Nigel Stock, as it was for Scott Malcolm, Andy Fox, Kieran Smart, Adrian Fritsch, who was 2 laps down, the same for Mark Sykes, and then we did unfortunately have our retirees of Adam Wilson-Weir, Phil McDougall and Carl Thompson. So in the end, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up our first race of the day. But don't worry, we've still got plenty more racing to come here at a rather challenging legacy Silverstone circuit, because coming up shortly in about what will be 10 to 15 minutes time, we'll be back for the build up to race number 2. And with it, we'll wait to see whether Project 26 with AlphaTauri Challenge can make it 1-2 with success balance now being loaded into the cars, or can Mikey Doble thread the needle between Wojciech Swierdijk and Luciano Whitford and bring home his first win of the season. Well, for all that and more, don't go anywhere. We'll be back soon. But as we leave you, it's a word from our sponsor, Doble Motorcycles. Speaking of Mikey Doble Racing, if you'd like to support Mikey as he pushes it to the limit out on track, you can do so by following the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page as seen on screen. Additionally, if you want to represent the 88 Army at a BTCC weekend, Mikey Doble Racing has some fantastic merchandise available just for you, as may be found either via the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page or alternatively in the Doble Motorcycles store at dobledirect.co.uk. Don't miss out on being a part of the 88 Army today. And so we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Our first race of the season has been done, and it's past us. And what a race it was to open up proceedings. Within the end, Luciano Whitford getting off to winning ways in the race where nobody has ballast, and therefore everybody argued he is equal, and he's proved himself to be the #1 driver. However, that is definitely a little bit of an over-summarisation. And in these tricky conditions at Silverstone, the fact that so many of our drivers made it to the finish line and were battling every step of the way is testament to their ability, and they've definitely shown what they can do. But what now will they be able to do in race number 2? That is what we're definitely wondering. And well, you know what we need to do, ladies and gentlemen? We need to get a word or two with some of our drivers. And the only way we can do that is by trying to have a quick word with one or two of them up and down the order. But who do we speak to exactly? Who do we try and grab a quick word with? Well, I was hoping we might be able to get a word with none other than George Stone. But unfortunately, I think they're still getting the car moved in the pit lane. I don't want to disturb him. However, one driver we might be able to get a word with is none other than Joseph Wright, who's got himself off to an absolute flyer tonight. Albeit, can we get a word with him? That's the question. Or is he busy concentrating? And I do believe we might be able to just pull him into what will be our commentary booth and get a patch through to the car. So we jump on board with none other than Joseph Wright, and let's see if we can have a quick chat with him. So as we get a patch through to the car, Joseph, have you got time for a quick chat live on air?
Oh, I did. You caught me off there.
We always do seem to catch drivers off, particularly in these tricky conditions, but we've got to ask, how was race 1 for you? Because podium in the AM class on your debut, and it's not as though you started on the podium, you had to claw your way up.
Yeah, it's not what I was expecting. I wasn't expecting to get up there onto the podium, that's for sure, but through the pre-season I was definitely feeling like I'm not showing the pace in qualifying, but I can just somehow string it together getting into the races. So it was nice to get up there, battling away. Shame I couldn't hold second, but I think third's a really great one for my first race.
Well, a great start to your season. So now, race number 2, we've put a bit of ballast in your car, the best part of 9 kilograms. What can we expect from you in this race?
I'm not too sure what I can do in this one. I mean, Fi was looking fast, Stone were looking fast. They had issues in that one. So I'm not too sure what I could do keeping it ahead of them with the weight, but I'm going to certainly try my hardest. I think the water certainly equalises a little bit. We can't run as fast as we normally would anyway, so I'm just going to give it a go, see if I can try and get a double podium.
All fair. Well, Joseph, thank you for your time. We'll leave it there. Good luck in race number 2.
Thank you.
So here and there from Joseph Wright, ladies and gentlemen, and he's not quite sure where it came from, but good to hear his thoughts there, particularly the considerations of the fact that he does feel as though his pace, in particular in what is qualifying, is perhaps a weakness that he needs to work on, and therefore he's going to see where he can work on that as the season goes on, but also in the meantime be happy of how he progressed in the race, but knowing that many of his rivals had a bit of a slippery start to the season, so therefore he's got to be on his guard because there might be some more places to be made. But with him sliding off the road, indeed Sean Dobie there showing us that he can go sideways in towards turn number 4. Something tells me we may not quite be able to get another word with any of our drivers right now, unless we can get a quick word with one or two of them. But I think most of them will be getting their heads down here and focusing. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to leave them to it, ladies and gentlemen, because I think they need to concentrate. And we should just point out, with regards to what is none other than some of our drivers out there, what we were working on in the background, and that's why we didn't talk too much to you in the respective chats, YouTube or Facebook. Sadly, our Twitch stream is down, although we know the reasons why, and well, it may be that the end of the Twitch stream for this series, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, due to a technical limitation, which we will investigate after the broadcast today. However, we've been saying about a Mission R team out there, which includes Adam Wilson-Weir, Sammy Ariba, and a couple other drivers. They are in fact known as Type 2 Racing, or TTR. We've updated that on the broadcast here, and that's what we're working on in the background, and we do apologise for the confusion there. But right now, don't be confused about this. We're making our way to the grid for our second race of the day. Who's going to come out on top in the rain this time? We're getting wetter and wetter at Silverstone. Let's find out. So as our drivers make the way onto the grid for the second time today, they line up as they finished race number 1. The sun's coming out as well. Could that speed up the pace of things? We will see. But Luciano Whitford, either way, starts on pole position for Project 26 with Alpha Touring Challenge. He'll be joined on the front row of the grid by Mikey Doble for Doble Sim Racing, and then behind them it'll be Wojciech Swiatek, who lines up third, behind his teammate directly on that running order. Ben Altrier starts in full for Full Tilt Motorsport, knowing that he wants to make it back-to-back Pro-Am wins, but do keep in mind, of course, that he has got the best part of 33 kilograms of success ballast in that Hyundai Elantra now, and that's going to make that car roll around like a bit of a boat. However, it'll be row your boat for the drivers behind him as well, including Adam Delmott for Next Gen Green and Isaac Doble for Doble Sim Racing, starting at third row of the grid. With Alex Meredith, he did well to hold on to 7th in race number 1, and well, he's now got to try and do it again here in race number 2. But Andrew Pike will be close to the Sim Racing Collective Esports, but will we see the 40th birthday man, who we will definitely try to get a word on the broadcast later on today, ladies and gentlemen, to celebrate his birthday at the request there of Roger Pike, his father, in the Facebook chat. Will he be able to hold on this time? Well, we'll see, because he's got Logan McKinsey for company again, and the Project 76 with Alpha and Change Drive will be looking to come back at him. Stuart Winers begins this one in 10th for Track Scotland, your second place prime driver. Another solid performance here would definitely see him continue to move up the rankings, with Dan Mould in 11th for Next Gen Green, ahead of Jamie Dorey for Next Gen Pink. The two sister team drivers definitely got their elbows out at each other. Can we expect it again? Joe Coffin, he went under the radar a little bit. He finished 13th in race 1, the Team Big Lips driver. And indeed, Big Lips, loose lips, sink ships. But right now, he's not sinking. He is definitely staying afloat. Can he do it again? Because Benjamin Gregory's alongside him, the third place prime driver, who starts 14th for Full Tilt Motorsport. Craig Tardop begins this one in 15th for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, ahead of Joe Doble for Doble Sim Racing. And then we do have Lewis Delmont in 17th place for Next Gen Green, ahead of Aztec Racing's Matthew Cheverton. Michael Lee starts 19th on the grid, ahead of Wayne Douglas. Both drivers out of position there for JW Motorsports and Next Gen Pink. And then we have 21st on this grid, Lewis Mason, your AM pole sitter. He's got to do it again, but can he make it 2 for 2? Knowing he's got the pressure behind him, the Full Tilt Motorsport driver of Next Gen Orange's Michael Clough, and also there Sam Exton for Team Big Lips, and the man we spoke to only moments ago, Joseph Wright for Next Gen Blue, who says watch out for the AMs further behind, they'll be coming through. Lee Horn starts 25th for Next Gen Orange, ahead of Joshua Downing for Type 2 Racing, ahead of Jack Brown in 27th. The Next Gen Green driver followed up there by Stephen Fry, who begins this one in 28th place, and the Iris Esports powered by Crest Autosport driver will be going for the victory, knowing it eluded him in race number 1 when he had it all in his hands. Nick Clemens and Matthew Jordan complete your top 30, and behind them on this grid we do have 31st, it's Alan McCain ahead of Marcel Fritsch, with the WS Racing Esports driver following the pack of Iris Esports cars, and he's surrounded by them because Sam Smith's behind him 33rd. Gabriel Yilmaz begins this one in 34th place for Aztec Racing, ahead of Next Gen Blue's Fraser Rostance, with Mark Hughes for GBRC in 36th place, looking to recover from a difficult first race, ahead of Sammy Ariba for Type 2 Racing, and Andy Aldhouse, his teammate, in 38th. Sean Doby and what is Roy Plummer round off your top 40 there for ATEC Racing and Next Gen Blue respectively. And then on row number 21, it's going to be George Stone for Type 2 Racing, ahead of Nigel Stock for Iris Esports. And then we'll see behind the Crest Autosport power car Lewin Motorsport, Scott Malcolm, who started off strong in race 1, but the Scotsman went backwards when it all went wrong at Priory, and he'll be in the company of Andy Fox for Next Gen Orange. Track Scotland's Kieran Smart starts 45th. He's got a long way to go. Expect him to be quick, ahead of none other than Adrian Fritsch. The WS Racing Esports driver will be hoping for less drama in this one, because on the penultimate row of the grid, it'll be Mark Sykes 47th for Next Gen Orange, ahead of Type 2 Racing's Adam Wilson-Weir. And then lastly on this grid, it's Phil McDougall 49th for CXR Project Black, and Carl Thompson for GBRC, who starts in 50th place. So they're all back on the grid once again, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be for the second time today shortly that we'll see them all go, but there's a slight and slender bit of rainfall in here, and as they've all waited so eagerly on the grid to get racing, well, it's wet tyres on every car as far as the eye can see. Nobody is daring to gamble with the slick, and I think understandable there could be even heavier rain on the way as it gradually starts to fall down on the pit lane here and on the start finish straight. The sun was out, it was shining, but right now something tells me that it's not going to be divining, and instead Divine Intervention can't stop us going green for the second time, because it's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5 lights. And it's lights out, away we go. It's a quick start in this one, but who gets off to the quickest start of the ball? Well, Luciano Whitfoot there gets a better start compared to Doble. The battle goes in towards turn 1. Swierdowicz immediately on the back of Doble into the opening corner, but in the end now he's got to look up the inside. Can he get it done? The answer is yes, just about. So Doble's on the outside there. He's going to try and cut back quickly if he wants to make sure Swierdowicz doesn't get away, as the whole field tiptoes its way through the opening corner. They've all made their way through, 2, 3, perhaps even 4 wide in there, and everyone is safely down in towards turn turn number 1. And now in towards 3, 4 they come. And Whitfoot and Swierdijk are your top 2 now. They've got ahead of Doble, trying to come back at them. Swierdijk goes a bit deep. Further back there, you can see Logan McKenzie finds himself right in the scrap versus Stuart Wyniss and also Joe Coffin with Jamie Dory there side by side with Coffin. And it's 2 by 2 here as it's McKenzie and Wyniss, and then it's going to be, in fact, I believe that's Dory just getting ahead of Coffin behind. So the 2 by 2's ended. Instead, it's the 2 up front, and it's line astern as they head onto the brakes and in towards the Abbey hairpin. There's a big slide loose there. That is a mistake from, I believe, that's the car of Joseph Doble, who gets it loose under brake and makes contact with Lewis Delmont, but they survive it. Oh no! This car's going deep, and I think that's going to lead to even bigger domino effect here as they all constantly do queue up, but we've got cars round, and in particular there, that is the car of Adam Wilson-Weir that's come off worse. Also, we've seen difficulty for none other than Sammy Ariba, also a nightmare for Nick Clemens, and Clemens with the iRacing Esport with Crest Autosport car that was pointing in the wrong direction, has had the rear suspension completely taken out of it due to the damage picked up on the back. We'll get a replay of that when we can, but it was all going so well until somebody got it wrong, and now, well, as I could definitely agree there with being 18C1D saying with their emoji there biting their nails. Well, it was a bit of a nail biting start, but some unfortunately have come unstuck. So after one lap, it's Whitfoot who leads ahead of Swierdijk, followed by Doble. That's Mikey Doble in third place. Adam Delmont is in fourth ahead of Altria, followed by Isaac Doble. Isaac Doble right now not able to keep close to this man. And Altria is going on the charge here in his Hyundai Elantra. I don't know where he's getting this confidence from, but I'm not going to say stop it. Keep at it, Ben, because he's really pushing hard. And I'll tell you one thing, if he hasn't got a stick on the side of the car, the running joke in the paddock of Altria for Pro, I suspect somebody will stick it on before we get to race number 3 today. But meanwhile, as they make the way all weaving on through, we look back to Logan McKenzie, who right now is under an absolutely Goliath amount of pressure here as he comes out of turn number 4. He really is the rest of the field at this point in terms of leading it. He's in 9th behind Dan Mould, but ahead of Stuart Wyniss. And Wyniss right now queuing up there. And the second place Pro-Am driver, wondering, I think, how exactly he's going to be able to get a bit more involved here as these drivers wind their way down to the braking zone. Coming down in towards turn number 5, there's going to be no change. McKenzie right now just simply holding his ground, whereas the long queue of cars all get so close to each other at this point, and that's what he can try to do. He can try to get them to fight each other instead of worrying about fighting him, but it's easier said than done at these levels. As we can see, Wyniss and Dory, they're getting a bit close. Stuart Wyniss going very sideways there. Dory doing the same. They drift their way under the bridge. And in towards Priory they go. Dory's got to look around the outside here. Can he get it done? The answer is no, he can't. He runs out too deep, and here comes Joe Coffin up the inside. The Team Big Lips driver. He goes for it here. Does he get it stopped? Yes, he does. Does he stamp his authority on it? Yes, no, maybe. I don't know. Can we repeat the question? Yes, we can. And in the end, it is going to be Coffin who just squeezes ahead of Jamie Dory, who had all the right intentions. But unfortunately for Jamie Dory, he just cooked it a little bit too much in towards Priory Bend. And as quickly as that, he's lost the place and lost even more. But meanwhile, back to your AM leader, and Michael Clough right now is doing a fantastic job at the front of the AM field. He's really ripped his way through this field. He's up to 21st and the lead of the class. He was your second place starter, of course, behind Lewis Mason. And I think when we do get a replay, Lewis Mason may have been caught up in the big bottleneck at turn number 5 on the opening lap. Further back, Carl Thompson makes progress there for GBRC ahead of Adam Wilson-Weir with the Team Type 2 racing driver right now making his way out, but he's going to go for the switchback here is Wilson-Weir as we jump on board with him. Now looking one way then the other, and as he heads down into that braking zone, where he still does have Thompson on his outside, but it looks as though right now for Wilson-Weir it's all about a bit of patience here. And I do believe the Type 2 racing driver, a real life racing driver as much as a sim racing driver for the outfit, and indeed he's using all that real life experience on the simulator and vice versa. They're interchangeable, and the saying is that the simulator is about 60 to 70% of real life. The thing you miss typically is the real life physical G-forces that you expect, but otherwise all the motions definitely replicate. And that's what iRacing is all about. Indeed, as he tries to look around the outside, they're trying to go for the switchback, but is it going to work? The answer is no, because Thompson just simply keeps himself there. And well, onwards they go. And when I say Thompson, unfortunately, if you're getting flashbacks to the 90s era of BTCC and expected to see a man in a Honda Accord Type R, you're not going to quite see that, but I do wonder where Carl Thompson sees himself in one of those one day. Meanwhile, Andy Aldhouse has gone round. We've got a car on the road as well. Who's that who's gone spearing off to the other side of the road? I'm not quite sure. But there, the Nissan Primera tribute livery machine of Andy Aldhouse is parked up for a brief moment and tries to get itself back together. But as he does so, will we take a look back at some of the bigger moments from the start of this race, beginning with what happened to Alex Meredith. Now this was Meredith making his way in towards the run of Pryor into bridge. Went a bit deep there, car washed out onto the grass. Did he get it back together? Yes, he did, but not without the risk of losing a place or two. And he started off what was quite the fight there, and that was in the fight with the likes of Dan Mould and Logan McKinsey and company. So he really ended up and started to create the separation for the rest of the field. And well, he's still holding on to 7th at the moment. We then saw what was this just beforehand. This was the big incident down at turn number 5. So we saw Joe Doble had a bit of contact there with what was Dan Mole, but under braking they all went. So contact to the rear there. I believe that was contact from what was one of our, well, I couldn't quite see which car it was that went spearing into the back of one, but Nick Clemens was an unfortunate victim in those circumstances because somebody got it rolled further back and Clemens just happened to be in the wrong place at the right time to also be collected with it. This was the onboard from Joseph Wright. So as he made his way on down in towards that braking zone, well, went all into the brakes, and as he did so, well, coming on through, and he got a bit of a tap as well. So Wright got spun around, as did Clibbins, and at that point, well, another knock, followed by another knock there, crash, bang, wallop. He got himself pointed back in the right direction, but by then, it was all in pieces. So back to your live racing we come, and there's more to come. Oh, we've got even more cars off the road. That is, I believe, none other than Benjamin Gregory who's taken a trip to the gravel, and as well as him, who else has taken a trip out there? Somebody has. Well, couldn't quite see who the other car was, but Benjamin Gregory definitely come off the worst. I think it might have been Joe Doble who got caught up there because he's rejoined a bit further up the road. So drama between all of them. Indeed, it's a bit of a dramatic time between all these drivers, no doubt about it. But for those wondering what exactly has happened, to none other than Andrew Pike. Where has he gone in all of this? Because for Andrew Pike, he's dropped a long way down the order. In fact, he's dropped all the way down to 50th place, and he has retired from this race, it would seem. We're not 100% certain what's happened to Andrew Pike, unfortunately. We can't fill you in on that one. We have lost him from this race, and we don't really have an explanation as to why, other than he has had to be towed to the pits. I suspect it might be for a bit of an altercation. Can we get a replay here to explain? So this was on the opening lap. It was Andrew Pike battling with Alex Meredith at the time, and Meredith, of course, took his trip all the way wide as he made his way out of the corner. As he did so, well, then it was Meredith versus Pike all the way round Priory and in towards Brooklands, and in the end, it was going to be Meredith who got back ahead. But then, only what was a bit of a lap later, this was Dan Mould, and he was chasing after Andrew Pike at the time, and something tells me we are suddenly going to lose Andrew Pike. And the answer is yes, we have had a technical retirement for Andrew Pike. That explains the story. He's just literally popped off, and that is the equivalent of what is a failure of the car there. So an engine blowout for Andrew Pike. He's back in the pit lane, but he's not going to be able to resume this race because they are doing work on the car. So that explains what happened to Andrew Pike there. We lost him when he was right in the thick of the fight inside the top 10. But now we're going to stay in the present. We're not going to jump back in time for a little bit because we've got plenty of action to unfold. And right now, with the loss of Andrew Pike, that's suddenly opened up the door for Alex Meredith to move higher. He's up in a 4th place here, ahead of Ben Altrier, who's currently your leading prime driver. And, well, he's now going to be leading into 4th place here because Meredith goes a bit deep into the opening bend of course. They're going to be too wider as they go along. And at this pace, well, that white painted line's not going to slow the car down by any means or cause it to become unsettled. But in towards that braking zone they come, and Altrier gets ahead. Meredith seems to be struggling a little bit here versus the Elantras. Rolling on through. Isaac Doble's the next one now to try and tick off Alex Meredith from his list, as we do have a yellow flag applied to Adam Delman. That will be for track limits, so he will have to serve an automated slowdown at some point in the near future. Otherwise, he will find that converted into what will be none other than a drive-through penalty. And, well, the thing about these slowdowns is you do want to try and serve them in the most conservative way possible, whereby you don't lose any time whatsoever. And, well, the whole aim of the game is essentially to do a bit of lift and coasting. That's how you burn the slow down, but you try to do it before the braking zones whilst in the turf of another car. Lee Horn battling with Sam Exton. Well, there's no slowing down between these two as they fight over 15th place, and Exton right now being pushed back a little bit as Horn defends on the inside. Up the hill they come under the bridge, and a little bit of a rub between the two. Exton's not going anywhere though. Horn's going to have to deal with this, and Horn right now finds Exton right there with him as they come in towards the next point of contact, which will be at turn number 8, where there's going to be a bit of a rub between the two of them surely. But no, in fact, they keep it nice and clean, and instead, Exton now earns his way to the outside here, but forces Horn to go defensive, and Exton, the prime driver, definitely keeping one of our most experienced pro drivers absolutely on his toes here, and Exton right now showing no flinch, and he's not pulling any punches and fighting with a driver who's been on the grid since season 1, day 1 of the series. And well, how about that for a bit of spunk from Sam Exton there, giving it everything, and he's rising to the challenge. You love to see that. Michael Clough, meanwhile, your leader in the AM class, with everything that went wrong for so many drivers, he was the one who avoided all the madness that unfolded at turn number 5 on the open lap, and he's really bolted away. But look at this. Mark Hughes has got George Stone right behind him, and these two, well, for Mark Hughes, he's come all the way through the field. The same for Stone. They have both really risen from the ashes in this one. But I think George Stone here is going to have a shot at this. Look into the inside of turn number 3. Can he get it done? No, Hughes will hold his ground here. And, well, right now, Hughes will have raced around Silverstone more times than many of us will have, ladies and gentlemen, in his own Honda Civic FN2 Type R race car. But right now in that Audi RS3, I can tell you one thing, where it's an Audi or a Honda, he is keeping it together very nicely here in Northamptonshire, and Stone is struggling to find a way past at the moment. Keeping in mind that both of these drivers have no success ballast in those AM cars. They really are in the car as it stands with a fixed setup, and therefore there's going to be no option. There's no extra weight. It is all going to come down to the driver and minimising and maximising the strengths and weaknesses of their cars. But for all the power that we saw Hughes have in the first half of the lap, it's now George Stone who gets back at him there under bridge. And Sam Smith here is now going to be the difference between the two of them as he dives the inside there. Hughes sees it coming and leaves the door nice and wide open there for Smith to become a nuisance for Stone more so than for himself. And Mark Hughes here will just take a bit of a breather and ride on the back of the man that he's just let through. The idea being here that the GBRC driver will not want essentially to get in the way of Smith. He'll want Smith instead to get in the way of Stone, push him back towards him and resume the fight, and perhaps even gain the place with less effort. But we'll see, because Scott Malcolm is only 7 tenths behind, and he will be looking to try and get a bit more involved in this one as time rolls on. Meanwhile, further down the order, we've got Sean Doby here joined a bit of a battle with Adrian Fritsch, and right now I can tell you that Adrian doing everything right to hold on to that 7th place in the AM class after the misery of race 1 with that huge shunt before he even got to turn number 5. Well, right now he's clearing Sean Doby, and Doby, who has previously been a bit of a wet weather guru in the AM class, well, right now he's definitely finding himself up against some stiff competition as Kieran Smart makes his way on past and gets up to 34th place. But further up the road, Andy Fox recovers from off track, and as he does, oh, there's quite a conversation going on up there. That's several drivers there who've made the way off the road. Jamie Dory as well, and I think none other than Michael Lees. How on earth has that happened? Well, thankfully, we can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, because here's a replay to explain. So this was coming out to turn number 1. Car leaving the pits as well. That was Michael Lees. I get the feeling here there's going to be a bit of cross-pollination. Yes, there was. In the end, Lees came across, taps Dory. That sent Dory sliding on around, and Michael Lees immediately parking up there and looking to stay out of the way. Didn't want to add to it, and Jamie Dory just waiting his turn. Andy Fox, meanwhile, well, he made his way into the braking zone there. The car completely slid loose, and in the end, well, it was a knock to the barrier there for Andy Fox, and something tells me that Veloster may have some repair work due to arrive on it by the time they get to race number 3. So Michael Lees and Dory coming together, and then Andy Fox to his own volition taking his trip to the grass. But meanwhile, my good lord, that's Joseph Doble diving up the inside there of Andy Fox as we come back to your live pictures. And well, that was brave, that was bold, it was absolutely brash from the number 11 driver, and then he's found his way up the inside of Fox, and Doby with it there as well. 2-for-1 special from Joe Doble, but you would expect that from a pro driver who's a long way down the order right now. He just wants to make up these places. It is not proven to be a race of success for him right now, as into the pits meanwhile, that is going to be Fox with the damage on his car, to be expected. We saw that only once ago in the replay footage, and Joe Doble carries on his way. As the sirens of the pit lane blare, well, here's something that will blare in your ears, in the fact we do have Mikey Doble now being reinforced by Isaac Doble, who dives up the inside of Ben Altria. Altria putting so much pressure onto number 88 Honda, but something tells me right now that success ballast in Doble's car, the best part of 49 kilograms, is just holding back from the two leaders. And these cars, of course, they react very differently to the success ballast, whereas, say, the Honda, for example, it really hurts what is already one of its biggest weaknesses, which is straight line acceleration. Meanwhile, the Audi RS3 seems to be absolutely fine with the ballast in terms of the acceleration zones, of which there are plenty here at Silverstone. However, the Audi is affected in other ways, particularly with the way the suspension travels on the curbs with the extra weight, and also its ability to deal with understeer through medium and high speed corners. So with that different effect, Doble has fallen backwards as Whitford's running away at the front with Swierdijk for company 6 seconds with him, and meanwhile Mikey Doble trying to fight for the final spot on the overall podium with his brother Isaac looking to find a way in. And of course Isaac Doble, highly decorated in his first season of real life racing last year in the BSRCC's Ford Fiesta Championship, did incredibly well, and I do believe he was your champion in that. In fact, if he wasn't your champion, he came very close to it, but something tells me he was your champion in that. So in his maiden season of motorsport, already picking up a crown. Indeed, victory lives in the Doble family, there's no doubt about it. But as Mikey and Isaac try to keep Ben Altrier behind, Altrier, meanwhile, is absolutely loving these conditions in that Elantra. And well, I'll tell you one thing, whilst last season saw him definitely have a bit of a miserable start to the season, this season he's absolutely off to a blinder, as we can see Isaac up the inside there of Mikey. And in the end, well, in fact, around the outside, I should say, they're not the inside. That was Mikey defending to the inside to stop Altrier getting on through. I think Altrier here is going to find his way past as Mikey Doble struggles on the acceleration all the way up towards Bridge. Now towards Priory, Altrier does get ahead there, but you can see that dry line that's forming. It's quite a noticeable one at the moment. It's still wet conditions out there. Anyone who switches to the slick tyre, they would be absolutely mind-bogglingly mad to do so, but that dry line is definitely bringing the pace up, and with it we are seeing what is those drivers in the Elantra in particular now starting to find a bit more pace out there. But again, Mikey Doble coming back there on the inside of Altrier as they make their way out of turn number 9. And well, they'll continue that fight all the way towards turn number 1. But St. tells me Altrier will just pull ahead by the time they get to Cox Bend. Further down the order, meanwhile, we do look to Carl Thompson, who's off into the gravel trap, and Thompson rejoins there in the 774. We've also got Phil McDougall going along slowly there. I wonder whether McDougall's been involved in that contact, and he's trying to give the place back to what is Carl Thompson, because he's completely backed off. Thompson makes his way past, and McDougall immediately now gets back on the offensive, but as he does so, well, it's Thompson versus Marcel Fritsch. Marcel Fritsch won't give in, and now McDougall's going to try to take the place back again. So Thompson's going to be thinking to himself, oh, okay, I've been elbowed off, we've been involved in a bit of contact, and now you take the place off of me anyway. I think there might be a little bit of banter between those two down the paddock after this race is over, because McDougall's got the place at the end, albeit a bit of an unconventional way to do it. But to be fair to the CXR Project Black driver, he does race as cleanly and fairly as humanly possible. Adam Wilson-Weir, meanwhile, for Type 2 racing team. Well, right now he's side-by-side with Benjamin Gregory over 10th place in the Pro-Am class. These two fighting for some of the last big points. Goes a bit deep there into turn number 4. Gregory's with him. They're both going wide here. I think the confidence is building for everybody, but the problem is they're all getting too confident too soon with the feel of the car, and therefore that's why you're seeing them all go a bit deeper at these corners. And understandably, I think it will be in the minds of our drivers right now that these mistakes could become ever more easy to make at this point, but you've got to drive on the limit in these wet conditions. That's where you find all the race time, and they'll know that, and that's why they're giving it their all, as Wilson-Weir does take that place off of Greggy on the exit of turn number 5. Lovely bit of work there from the number 4 Veloster driver. But back to the front then as we head on to lap number 12 of 14. We've not got long left to go in this race. Luciano Whitford right now controlling the lead, a best part of 1.1 seconds ahead of his teammate Swierdijk. And then we do have 6.6 seconds meanwhile to Isaac Doble, who after finding his way past his brother Mikey has now run away with that third place. He's got a bit of a lighter car by comparison. He started 6th on the grid, which means that he has come into this race with the best part of approximately what has been at 20 kilograms of success ballast. And well, the young Honda driver right now definitely showing that he's very comfortable with the feel of the car. Ben Altrier, meanwhile, your prime winner in race number 1, where he's up to 4th place again here, and he's chasing down the overall podium. Although I suspect that right now Isaac Doble may have just put a bit too much daylight between the two of them. But Mikey Doble is definitely under more pressure as Dan Mould now trying to pick on him here in the battle of the two Hondas. Mould swipes to the outside, almost making a bit of contact there as they made the way through, but Mould timing that to perfection. And well, I can tell you one thing, that he has not lost his talent since not being on the NXTCC grid for a couple of seasons. But right now, Mould fighting hard with Doble. He wants to get on through. And Alex Murdoch and Adam Delmont are queuing up behind. They are all like sharks in the water. They all smell blood here. And right now the Next Gen green driver just right in the back of the Double Sim Racing driver. Looks up the inside there in towards Priory. No way through at the moment, but the confidence is there. It is building little by a little for the Englishman. I suspect that within the next 2 laps you're going to see a move, and I think it's going to be absolutely cinematic if he can make it happen. But Mikey Doble will know that right now holding on to that 5th, it's going to be worth a lot more points than 6th, and on top of that as well, if he can frustrate Mould now, he may be able to prove himself even more frustrating later on when we do get that reversed grid race. But the Next Gen green driver here, well, different approach for this season. He's definitely taken a look, not necessarily in the mirror, but looked at his own driving, look at his mentality to the racing from what I hear down the paddock. Because like many drivers, when things go well, you're always up and down being overjoyed. But when things go wrong, things can get a bit temperamental. But I do know that Mould definitely has thought about the bigger picture of his racing, and that's why we're seeing him right now. It's a new Dan Mould to 2026, and he's definitely enjoying himself out there, as we do have a step to the side. Meanwhile, for Sammy Ariba, as this whole field roars way through, Ariba going a lap down, and Mould right now definitely putting on a great show there. This is the Dan Mould that made his debut all the way back in season 3 of the series, and he demonstrated to us just how strong he was there with the SRL with Next Gen Racing Gold Team, and right now he's back on his prime. But coming down in towards turn number 5, all these drivers rolling nose to tail together. Nobody breaking out at the moment, although saying that, Doble goes a bit deep. Mould again will have an opportunity now in towards Bridge. This will be the best opportunity he's had in some time, because he's got the inside line. He's just got to be careful of that puddle on the inside. He doesn't want to clip it. If he does, that will upset the balance of the car. He does slightly tap it. That's the back off. Doble defends. Doble using that standing water to his advantage. Alex Meredith there tries to poke his way on the inside, but Adam Delmont now tries to come to the aid of Mould, his teammate. So they're all going to scramble here onto the brakes, and in the end, we'll Adam Delmont now looking to get a bit more involved as the Next Gen green driver looking one way then the other, and now looking around the outside. Logan McKenzie's not too far back as we have a white flag for our race leader. We're on to the final lap, but we're staying transfixed to this battle for the bottom end of the top 10 for now. It's where all the excitement is currently, although there is some other excitement to talk about very quickly, ladies and gentlemen, and it is here for 23rd, because this is Adam Wilson-Weir versus Benjamin Gregory, and they're fighting over what could be a very important place. It's got a low probability of coming out of the lottery bowl, because it requires numbers 11 and 12. That's the only combination. Gregory takes the place there from Wilson-Weir, but they're going to fight for it every step of the way as they make the way onto that final lap. We have a slowdown for Michael Clough, who has already cleared it. Your AM leader, I think he's safe. He's not having to worry. But meanwhile, we come back to the lead battle then, as this is Delmont versus Meredith coming out to turn number 4. So we're looking from one side of the field to the other here. It's all excitement every which way you look. These drivers are now coming on towards the final couple of corners, and at this point, well, what has Delmont got in the tank? Because Alex Meredith has proven to be too resilient each time that Delmont's look for a move. Then takes a little look to the inside, can't quite find it, and Logan McKenzie just watching on in ninth place, and I think he's only going to try and make a move now if an opportunity comes up rather than force one. All line astern now as they get ready then to complete this race. But as they do, well, meanwhile, we look back to the front of the field, and there is the 1-2 that was not in their hands in race number 1. But as he makes his way through the final quarter for Luciano Whitford, it was a great start, and since then he's been absolutely untroubled no matter what weight he's carried in the car. And for the Project 26 Valvatore Tange driver, this will make it back-to-back wins here at Silverstone in the treacherous conditions. Luciano Whitford is your winner overall, and it's a 1-2 for the team, because Wojciech Swiderich comes home in second place, 6 seconds clear of third place finish, his first podium of the season for Isaac Doble for Doble Sim Racing. Ben Altria makes it back-to-back prime wins for Full Tilt V Motorsport in 4th, ahead of Dan Mould, who beats Mikey Doble to the line in 5th. Alex Meredith takes 7th ahead of Adam Delmont, with Logan McKenzie in 9th, and Craig Twardock makes that podium happen for the Sim Racing Collective in the prime class. He's your runner-up in that class, 10th overall, and guarantees himself a spot on that reverse grid, as does Joe Coffin. And Matthew Cheverton there takes the third place spot in Pro-Am at 12th overall. Michael Clough has come through to take your AM win in this one. Well done to him, 16th overall. He's got a good chance of being inside that reverse grid for race number 3 that's coming up shortly, ahead of Alan McCain. George Stone recovered incredibly well to make his way to the second place spot in AM in 18th. And Mark Hughes, how about that? 19th overall third in the AM class. He's going to be absolutely pleased with that. 20th behind him was Matthew Jordan. And then, well, out of Sam Smith, Benjamin Greggy, and Adam Wilson-Weir, that completes your top 23 and the potential candidates to that reverse grid, with Jack Brown missing out by a second, and Mark Sykes, well, credit to him, it wasn't caught on camera, but he fought his way to fourth place in the AM class ahead of Marcel Fritsch, with a WS Racing esports driver putting in a solid stint as well. But as all the drivers cool on down, indeed, everyone has completed their race. We do look a little bit further down the field, with Phil McDougall recovering to 27th ahead of Carl Thompson, and Kieran Smart and Joe Doble completing that top 30. But leading the field into the pits is now your two-time race winner for this season, and my goodness, he has set himself on a mission here this season after multiple seasons of being been one of the bridesmaids of the NXTCC Championship. Luciano Whitford right now, he is making a declaration in this one, which is he is here to be a champion and take that maiden crown that has eluded him so many times. Remember, only 3 drivers hold the overall title. Mikey Doble holds 5, Jamie Dory holds 2, and the same for Wojciech Swierdajczyk. And right now, Luciano Whitford putting on an absolute storm of performances and hoping for plenty more. But as Michael Clough makes his way into the pit lane as well, the AM winner there, that's a huge result for him on what's only his second race of the season, and in the end making amends for what went wrong in race number 1. We heads on down with George Stone and Mark Hughes flanking him, their maiden podiums. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we take a look to the scenic view, and with it, the race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. So as we can see, after another brilliant 14 laps of racing action, Luciano Whitford taking victory in race 2 for Project 26 for Alpha Touring Challenge, and making it a 1-2 of his teammate Wojciech Swierdajczyk was your runner-up. The Englishman Isaac Doble finished behind the Polishman and the Dutchman in the end, with Doble Sim Racing 65 completing the run of the podium, and Ben Altrier, your back-to-back prime winner, a brilliant drive to 4th place there for Full Tilt Motorsport. Dan Mould took 5th for NXTGEN Green, a battling 5th place ahead of Mikey Doble, Alex Meredith, Adam Delwan, and also Logan McKinsey. And there we could see the quintet coming on home, but brilliant battling between all of them, with Craig Twildot coming in behind the American driver in 10th place. The Sim Racing Collective Esports driver was your runner-up in the Prime class, well done to him, ahead of Joe Coffin for Team Big Lips, who in the end sealed the deal, best the rest in 11th. Another solid performance from him in the 136, ahead of Matthew Cheverton, who completed your Prime podium, the Aztec Racing driver there, delivering a strong result, and he'll be happy with that one. Ahead of Stuart Wyness in the end, who came home not too far behind. It was only 4 tenths between them, and it was a further 4 seconds to Sam Exton, who rounded off your Prime top 5 in 14th place for Team Big Lips. The team are definitely moving up the order quite quickly, with Lee Horn in 15th place enjoying a good battle there with Exton, and the NXTGEN Orange driver finishing just 7 tenths ahead of his teammate. But in the AM class, it was a victory there for Michael Clough, 16th overall. Alan McCain took 17th ahead of George Stone, with the Iris Esports powered by Crest Autosport driver had a better race 2 compared to race 1, and he was ahead of the Type 2 racing driver, only 4 tenths at the finish. But for Stone, that won't matter, because he'll be very happy with his recovery drive into that 18th place, and the Type 2 racing driver in the end was 5 seconds clear of Mark Hughes, who brings home a podium. And indeed, if there was a glut of podiums in what was season 9 for Mark Hughes, well, this is the way he's going to start off the season, because he knows he's got the potential. He's just had a lot of bad luck since his arrival in the NXTCC. Matthew Jordan finished 20th for NXTGEN Pink, and outside the top 20, it was then a bit further back there in none other than was 21st place Sam Smith for Iris Esports powered by Crest Autosport, who was 5 seconds clear of Benjamin Gregory, and the Full Tilt Motorsport driver enjoying a rather close battle with Adam Wilson-Weir and also Jack Brown. But Jack Brown unfortunately could not get the decisive move for 23rd place and misses out there versus the Type 2 racing driver of the chance of being a reverse grid pole. Mark Sykes took 25th for NXTGEN Orange, just ahead of Marcel Fritsch, and a good battle between them for the AM spots outside the podium, with the WSA in Esports driver being followed up by Phil McDougall, Carl Thompson, Kieran Smart, and Joe Doble. The Double Sim Racing drive then saw Nigel Stock not too far behind him, but ahead of Sean Dobie, with Jamie Dory in 33rd place after that frustrating trip to the grass and that contact with Michael Lees. Adrian Fritsch, meanwhile, he's had a better race too. He finished 34th and secures his first AM points of the season. The WS Racing Esports drive was then followed up by Nick Clibbins, and then Scott Malcolm, Joseph Wright, Joshua Downing, Gabriel Yilmaz, and Roy Plummer completed the top 40, with the NXTGEN Blue driver the first of many who was a lap down. It was also a lap down there to Sammy Ariba, Fraser Ostens, Wayne Douglas, and Andy Aldhouse, 2 laps down to Michael Lees, and then here were some of the retirements, ladies and gentlemen, due to damage on their cars, including none other than Andy Fox, Lewis Mason, Andrew Pike with that technical issue, albeit he was able to get the car back out there and run 4 laps down in the end. Well done to him. And we also did see retirements of Stephen Fry and Lewis Delmont. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, the circuit falls silent, albeit for a brief period, because we've completed our first 2 races of the day. But you know what's coming up next, and we did have to start making our way to what is the commentary booth, because next up is none other than your reverse grid race. And well, ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you one thing, as we do get set for that reverse grid race, we cut to the commentary booth, and good evening to you all. I hope you're all doing well, and we're back once again then for what is the time to draw our balls out of the bowl. We had an eclectic mix of reverse grid positions for Season 9, albeit we did go from 6th through to 12th, through to what was in the end 13th through to 23rd due to the amalgamating of the lobbies. But as always, for the uninitiated, what are we doing? Here's the bowl. We've got a number of balls in there from 6 through to 12. I'll close my eyes shortly, and I'll put my hand in, take 2 balls out, and add them together, and that is where we reverse the grid from. So without further ado, let's do the reverse grid draw for the first time this season. There's the shuffle, and what's going to be our first ball? Our first ball of the day is going to be the number 8, so it's right in the thick of the middle there, so it could be quite a sizable reverse grid, but what will be added to the number 8? There's a quick shuffle, and our second ball is drawn. And it is going to be, for our first reverse grid of the season, well, it's 2 numbers right next to each other. It's 8 and 9 which go together, and that does mean that none other than 17th place will be our reversal position, and Alan McCain will line up on pole for our final race of round number 1 of the championship. And he'll be joined on the front row by your race 2 and winner of Michael Clow, who might now just have that opportunity to make it 2 wins on the bounce. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in approximately 10 minutes time for the build up to race number 3. But as we leave you, don't go too far, because the racing will be intense, and we will leave you with a word from our title sponsor, Doble Motorcycles. Speaking of Mikey Doble Racing, if you'd like to support Mikey as he pushes it to the limit out on track, you can do so by following the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page as seen on screen. Additionally, if you want to represent the 88 Army at a BTCC weekend, Mikey Doble Racing has some fantastic merchandise available just for you, as may be found either via the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page or alternatively in the Doble Motorcycles store at dobledirect.co.uk. Don't miss out on being a part of the 88 Army today. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back for one final race today for our season opening round of Season 10 of the Next Gen Racing Touring Car Championship, brought to you on the premier sim racing platform known as iRacing and powered by Doble Motorcycles. Races 1 and 2, well, they've definitely been wet, they've been wild, and race number 3 is not going to let the rain abate, as it falls in full splendour, as you can see in the pictures behind our title page. But as our drivers get set for one final trip around the 2008 Silverstone circuit before we come back to the present for round number 2 in 2 weeks' time. Well, who's going to impress this time? Firstly, of course, we do have a top 17 reverse grid. Our first reverse grid draw of the season definitely has given us a healthy reverse grid to work from, and one of the biggest gainers of it was none other than Alan McCain, who is going to be starting on pole position, and I wonder if we might be able to get a quick word with Alan, given the fact it'd be good to hear his thoughts on how he feels about the starting slot. Well, he's in a bit of a crowded situation at the moment. I wonder if we should be careful about trying to grab a quick word with him, just because we don't want to distract him, but I think he's been able to clear those he's around. So without further ado, ladies and gents, we are going to try and jump into the car with Alan and see if we can get a quick word with the man as he makes his way on around. And as he does so then, let's see if we can get a patch through to the car. Good evening to you, Alan. Do you have time for a quick chat live on air?
Yeah, go ahead.
Alan, I've got to ask, reverse grid pole position for race number 3. Are you happy with it, or were you perhaps hoping to be a bit further down the starting order?
You know what? I'll take it. It was kind of... it'll make my night a bit better than what it has been.
Oh, fair play. You've had a bit of a rough one, but to be fair, we see you out there. You sound like you're still smiling.
Yeah, without a doubt. I'm still a big cheesy grin.
Oh, fantastic. Well, just before we let you go, any targets for the next one, or is it just going to be get to the finish?
I think it's just get to the finish. I'm not sure what the weather's going to do, whether it's going to stay rain or start to dry up. I'm not sure, so we'll just take it as it comes.
Well, fair play, Alan. With that, we'll leave it there. Good luck for race number 3, and we'll see you at the checkered flag.
Thank you very much.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from Alan McCain. And, well, he's trying to keep upbeat as best as he can, but you can definitely hear there he's had a frustrated day, and, well, he'll happily take what will be that pole position for race number 3. The reason I asked it is because not all drivers like the thought of being on reverse grid pole. Some are actually terrified at the thought of it, and therefore it definitely gives and takes, because, of course, you start at the front, you have a golden opportunity for a big result, but you also have a lot of pressure applied to you. But as all drivers right now try to get a feel for the circuit a little bit more, well, one driver who definitely has been quite impressive over the course of the day and impressed us quite well in race number 2, it was none other than George Stone, who gradually made his way back through the running order. Can we get a quick word with him as the rain starts to come down in full fever? Let's see as we try to get a patch through to the car with George Stone, ladies and gentlemen.
What was that?
Good evening to you, George. Have you got time for a quick chat live on air?
Can do, yeah.
George, a great race 2 after a bit of a challenging race 1, which saw you propelled down the order. How's your debut round gone so far, do you feel?
Well, obviously the first race wasn't the best, as you just said, but yeah, I'm happy with how race 2 went, and I'm hoping to build again in the third race.
And you just came a little bit short of the reverse grid pole position, but I can imagine you're still going to try and charge your way through the field for that win.
Hopefully, yeah, obviously I'll be starting right behind the top guys, so hopefully I can tag on the back and make some progress.
All fair play to you, George. We'll leave it there. We'll see if it works out for you, and good luck in the race.
Thank you very much.
So here and there from George Stone, ladies and gentlemen, and, well, he's definitely got his head down here. My goodness, it's for good reason as well, because the cloud coverage around here is absolutely maxing out at the moment. And, well, we had some sunshine at the end of race number 2, but I don't think that sunshine's coming back anytime soon. So that's why all the drivers, I think, are so eager just to get their heads down and focus. It's understandable. So without further ado, we're going to leave it there in terms of speaking to any more drivers, and in good time as well, because it is time to go green flag racing for the final time this evening. It's off to the grid we go then for race number 3. So as our drivers make their way onto the grid for the final time and the rain continues to fall, this is how they'll line up for race 3 of 3 in round 1 of season 10 of the NXTCC. Alan McCain takes the top 17 reverse grid pole position for iRace Esports powered by Crystal Autosport, and he'll be joined on that front row of the grid by Michael Clow for NextGen Orange. The AM pole sitter will then be followed up by the pro pole sitter of Lee Horn for NextGen Orange. Top 3 spots occupied by the top 3 in the 3 classes. We haven't seen that before, I don't think, in the history of the NXTCC, so we're already breaking records here as of round number 1. But alongside Lee Horn will be Sam Exton, who impressed in race number 2 for Team Big Lips. He's earned the right to start 4th ahead of Stuart Wyness, with the Track Scotland driver having the company of Matt Cheverton from Aztec Racing. Number 1 driver then will be followed up by none other than Joe Coffin for Team Big Lips, who's got Craig Twardock for company on the 4th rider grid for the Sim Racing Collective Esports. He continues to push forward. And then we do have an all-pro 5th row, Logan McKenzie for Project 26 for Alpha Touring Challenge, head of NextGen Green's Adam Delmont. Outside that top 10, in 11th place, it is Alex Meredith for NextGen Orange, ahead of Doble Sim Racing's Mikey Doble, with Dan Mould starting in 13th for NextGen Green, looking to try and get the upper hand on the number 88 car once again. If not, Ben Ultree will be there to take him on for Full Tilt with Motorsport, starting 14th. And then we do have an all-pro row number 8 of Isaac Doble for Doble Sim Racing, who impressed towards the end of race number 2, head of Project 26 for Alpha Touring Challenges, Wojciech Swierdajczyk and Luciano Whitford, your winner of race number 2 and back-to-back winner now, who starts 17th. The Dutchman will then be joined by the man we just spoke to, George Stone, who's got all the big names in front of him, and the Type 2 racing driver's going to try and attach himself to them and move forward. And it's Mark Hughes for GBRC and Matthew Jordan who complete your top 20. The Next Gen Pink driver then being cheered on by George Williams in the YouTube chat, who says, "Come on, Matt Jordan," and glad to have you with us, George. Outside the top 20, in 21st place, it's Sam Smith for iRace Esports, powered by Crest Autosports Sam Smith, where Benjamin Gregory 22nd for Full Tilt Motorsport, ahead of Adam Wilson-Ware and Josh Brown. Not Josh Brown, I should say. That is none other than Jack Brown. I'm getting my Browns mixed up here because Josh was on the grid last season. Adam Wilson-Ware, of course, looking to keep moving forward, as will Brown. And then we do have Mark Sykes in 25th place for Next Gen Orange, looking to do battle again with Marcel Fritsch for that 4th place in the AM class. Behind the WS Racing Esports driver will be Phil McDougall for CXR Project Black, who's had a much better race 2. Can he keep moving forward in race 3? If not, Cole Thompson will be there to keep him company for GBRC, ahead of Kieran Smart for Track Scotland and Joe Doble for Joe Doble Sim Racing. We then do have in 31st, Nigel Stock for iRace Esports powered by Crest Autosport, ahead of Sean Doby. The A-Tip racing driver find his feet in race 2, and in time with Jamie Dory behind him and in the company of Adrian Fridge. Behind the Austrian driver will then be Nick Clivens for iRace Esports powered by Crest Autosport, and we do have Scott Malcolm for Lumen Motorsports keeping him company on the 18th row. Row number 19, it's going to be Joseph Wright for Next Gen Blue, ahead of Type 2 Racing's Joshua Downing, with Gabriel Yilmaz for Aztec Racing and Roy Plummer for Next Gen Blue completing that top 40. Outside the top 40, it's then Sammy Ariba for Type 2 Racing, ahead of Next Gen Blue's Fraser Rostance, with Wayne Douglas 43rd for Next Gen Pink, ahead of GBRC's Andy Aldhouse, with Michael Lees 45th for JW Motorsport, ahead of Next Gen Orange's Andy Fox. And then we do have Lewis Mason 47th for Full Tilt Motorsport, ahead of Andrew Pike, who looks to come through the field after the technical retirement in race number 2. And the Sim Racing Collective Esports driver will be ahead of the final row, which is Stephen Fry for iRace Esports powered by Crystal Autosport and Next Gen Green's Lewis Delmont. So your 50 drivers make the way onto the grid for one last run for round number 1, ladies and gentlemen. It's another 14 laps from the start to the finish, but who will get to the finish line in time first of them all? Will it be Alan McCain, who knows it's a short run down towards turn number 1? And surely after that, it's all going to be done. Well, that's a very easy way of putting it, and certainly he won't be assuming that, nor will Michael Clow, who will be starting there alongside him, thinking he could just make this back-to-back and wins for Next Gen Orange, and with it score a huge landside score. But there's plenty of drivers further behind, and the one we've all got our eyes on is Sam Exton for Team Big Lips, because right now, it's not just because he's got the cheeky dinosaur helmet, he's been looking very quick. But here come the lights, ladies and gentlemen, and for the final time today, it's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5 and lights. And it's lights out and away we go with it for race 3 of 3 here at Silverstone as Alan McCain roars away. All the Hondas seem to struggle to launch minus McCain, and in towards turn 1. It's 3 wide of the battle for second place. That's going to be Horn, Exton and also Clow together. Now who's going to be the bravest of the bunch? I think it's Horn on the inside there. He'll just simply sweep on through, and the rest of the field now make the way from turn 1 up towards turn number 2. But it's been a clean start inside the top 20. Further back, George Stone and Mark Hughes. They're already exchanging real estate here as they make the way down. Oh, goodness me, was that thunder in the background I just saw coming to into the camera? If so, we could have a lot more rain due to come here. Hopefully not so, ladies and gents. So good to speak. We don't want to red flag this race, but either way, still fighting going on as Michael Clow right now fighting back here versus Craig Tardock after he's lost a few places. I think everyone's trying to go around the outside in there, with Clow being rather sensitive at the start, albeit fair play to him because he is the AM leader. He doesn't want to throw this away, and I think right now the number 14 driver's just getting himself acquainted with what it's like running amongst some of the biggest names. But meanwhile, Alan McCain keeping ahead as it's going to be Winus, Exton and Horn together. Stuart Winus goes all in on the brakes. In the end, he does come in a little bit hot, and Exton does get back ahead of Horn, but Winus does creep his way to third place. So a bit of good moving there from the Track Scotland driver. Albeit further back, we've got even more fighting. Mark Sykes battling with Jack Brown here. He's broken away her Sykes from Marcel Fridge, who's fallen a little bit further back, and Gabriel Yilmaz in the long run. We've got a couple of cars round further back there in that running order. I'm not quite sure who's got around. I think Scott Malcolm's been caught up in some of the incident, as has Roy Plummer. We'll try and get a replay of that when we can, but it's not all worked out for everybody in that order towards the back of the pack. Andy Fox, he's trying to pick his way through, currently in 35th. He's making some steady ground here as he fights now with Sean Doby to consolidate that position, and it looks like their Fox may just be able to do so, with Doby going a bit deep and wide. But right now it's definitely coming over dark here at Silverstone as well, and we'll see if we can update the brightness and contrast if we can. Further back in the AM class, well, Fraser Rostance here fights hard with Nigel Stock and Andrew Pike. Pike in the end going up the inside of Rostance, and I think that's going to be a smooth move. But meanwhile, oh my good lord, that's a graveyard of cars into Woodcock corner, and well, they're all still added to the mixture there. Not everyone's getting the memo of the yellow flags, and in the end there's going to be a few cars that have to be towed there. Something's gone very, very wrong at the end of lap number 1, and a number of drivers have been picked up by it. But meanwhile, those who have not been caught up in it are right at the front of the field, including none other than Alan McCain, ahead of Sam Exton and Stuart Winus. That is your top 3. Lee Horn is in 4th place. Meanwhile, your leading pro driver behind the top 3 of Pro-Ams. Then it's Craig Tardock in 5th place, ahead of Matthew Cheverton as the headlights go on the cars. Michael Clow is still in 7th. He's your AM leader, with Wojciech Swerdych behind him in 8th place, ahead of Dan Mould and Luciano Whitfoot, who completes your top 10. And speaking of Swerdych and Mould, well, here is Mould looking around the outside of Swerdych, down in towards turn number 5. However, that's going to be a little bit too opportunistic there, and in the end, Mould is going to have to tuck back in behind. Albeit Whitfoot here now looking to try and make a move, but remember, Whitfoot does have all that ballast in the car, and on top of that, he started further down, and normally this is the race that breaks even those who are able to somehow find a way to deal with that ballast. But we will see what is to come of him, and indeed everybody else's races as they all take a trip round. We're going very sideways there through turn number 8 in towards 9 and 10 shortly. Well, Ben Altria right now is looking to battle hard with Isaac Doble, and Isaac Doble's perhaps been one of the slowest starters of this group. Mikey Doble, meanwhile, is all the way down in fighting for 23rd with Andy Fox. Andy Fox has come through this field incredibly quickly, in fact. Indeed, I think the last time we checked, as Mikey Doble's got damage on the car, that explains it. He's got to come into the pits at the end of either this lap or the next one for repair work. How he's received that damage, I don't know. I suspect it's something to do with the big incident we saw on the run out of Woodcock Corner on the opening lap. But as he comes into the pits, several drivers do. This is definitely a nightmare end to the day for Mikey Doble, and hopefully he can get back out there, get the fast repair in, and get himself right into the pack again to try and pick up some points. If not, it might be race 1 and 2. He's got the points, and he loses an early score. But as things settle down for a brief moment, we take a look back in time to the opening lap and some of the big moments from it. Now, this started off with what happened at turn number 5. Multiple cars segueing out wide there, including Gabriel Yilmaz, who I believe was in the side-by-side and then got spun around, as did Carl Thompson. That was Thompson who went for the spin. Yilmaz was there with him. We also had Adrian Fritsch have a bit of a moment, and Roy Plummer and Scott Malcolm were caught up in this. Where were they? Well, there was Adrian Fritsch being turned. The Iris Esports car there went off the road as well. Couldn't quite tell you which one that was. How I can tell you it's happened to them. And then there's where it all went wrong for Scott Malcolm and Roy Plummer, who got turned out and spat out of the pack there. And well, that's definitely a bit frustrating one. It was Nick Clibbins who got turned in the end, ladies and gents, and we can tell you from the Iris Esports group. But as they all then calmed it down, this happened at the end of lap 1. So this was coming out of what was Luffield, and now, well, contact there initially. That was why the NXTGEN green car's being turned. It rolled backwards, and Logan McKenzie being collected there. Mikey Doble as well being collected in the group, and I believe that might have been the NXTGEN green machine of Adam Delmont, as it just all added up there, and more cars were coming into the scene of the instant, and in the end, well, nobody able to quite see due to the spray. This is what it looked like from on board with Mikey Doble when it all went wrong. So this was Doble making his way out of the corner, and as he did so, there goes Adam Delmont, rolls backwards, and Doble here has got nowhere to go. He tries to go one way, then the other, but the car slides loose on him due to the fact slippery surface, and he's changed one direction, then the other. Further down the order, meanwhile, there was an absolute nightmare for more drivers who came into the scene in that instant, including Mark Hughes. This was the onboard from Hughes' perspective, as he made his way through turn number 9, and he can already see something's gone wrong. He then comes into it, holds on for dear life, and, well, manages to just about avoid stricken cars and also the Armco barrier. Well done to Hughes there. Definitely a very well-tempered approach. Mark Sykes, meanwhile, was not as lucky. This is what happened to Mark Sykes when he came into the scene in the instant. Car in the middle of the road, and in the end, he went straight into the one on the right-hand side instead. So did send catapulting into the air there. What was Alex Meredith's car, and the car rolled back onto the road. A nightmare one for so many. But back to your live race to become, because whilst there's been a bit of carnage at the end of lap number 1, there's also some classic touring car racing still unfolding, as we haven't had too many changes of position since we last left them. With Andy Fox and Marcel Fritsch fighting over 21st. That's not what's on your screen at the moment. What's on your screen right now is Alan McCain, who is leading this race. However, as he makes well on, they are behind the safety car. And, well, unfortunately, that message didn't quite come through from race control to us, but we have been informed that the safety car is out there, ladies and gentlemen, due to what's been the big incident. And therefore, well, we do calm the racing down. So, in fact, it was a good time to go to our replay footage because the safety car was out there just at the time. Well, everyone is taking it nice and easy. But as they make the way onwards, well, right now they head on around, and one has to wonder when will the safety car make its way back in instead. Right now, all these drivers together. And it does seem as though the NXTGEN Racing safety car is being allowed to get a bit of distance here. So we might be going green flag racing shortly. That safety car being driven by none other than Gaz Williams, our resident safety car driver. Albeit it doesn't have any lights on the top of it. So the only way we'll be able to tell is when we get a message from race control. Alternatively, we will be getting what will be that distance that Alan McCain might give to the safety car to prepare his restart. But definitely gives us a bit of a breather here from all the chaos that unfolded. And, well, as it all calms down, now Alan McCain's going to have the unenviable task here of going green flag racing as they make the way on towards what will be another lap, and it looks as though the safety car is staying out for at least one more. So we now go on to a 5th lap here, but we will see what is our laps burned down. The race time will extend a little bit, but naturally we won't have as many laps to go racing when we get back up to speed. Unfortunately, unlike in the VTCC, we don't have the option of adding laps back onto the race because normally they're able to add at least 1, if not 2 laps on, depending on how long they spend behind the safety car. But here in the NXTCC, we can't add those laps on. Instead, we just have to keep on running as we were. But as our drivers head on around here, well, we've had definitely a bit of a shuffling, but your top 10 is Alan McCain, your prime leader ahead of the prime pair of Stuart Winnis and Sam Exton. Then you have your pro leader of Lee Horde in 4th, ahead of Craig Twardock and Matthew Sheraton, 2 more prime drivers. Then it is your AM leader of Michael Clough, who sits in 7th at the moment, with Wojciech Swirlach, the next pro, in 8th, ahead of Dan Mould and Luciano Whitford. Then it's George Stone, second to the AMs in 11th place, ahead of Ben Altria. And then we have Isaac Doble, Benjamin Gregory and Sam Smith completing the top 15, with Phil McDougall ahead of Kieran Smart. And then Joseph Doble, Jamie Dory and Matthew Jordan completing the top 20, with Marcel Fritsch, the third of your AM drivers, down in 3rd place, but he's definitely survived all the chaos and he's on course for a potential podium. But 3 places behind him is Mark Hughes, who'll be very keen to try and get a bit closer and try to find a place back of him before too long. Hughes, to be fair, did very well to survive all the chaos that we saw on the end of lap number 1, and that's how he was able to keep it together. But with that, ladies and gents, the safety car is pulling away, I've just been told in my ear, and therefore, as all of our drivers get ready to get themselves back up to speed, well, it is to Alan McCain to restart this race, and, well, as he makes his way out of turn number 8, Alan McCain now starts to build up the pace here. Remember, they're not allowed to overtake until they do get to the start-finish line here. Safety car's going out the final quarter, but McCain is building the ball up. He's going early as McCain. He's not going to wait until the very end, and I think this is a smart move because he doesn't want to lose any tyre temperature, and we are back to green flag racing, folks, as our drivers are all the way on. It is go, go, go for what is a remaining 9 laps of racing here at the Silverstone International Circuit. So, who is going to come home victorious at the end of this one? We will see as our safety cars in. We have had some difficulty for Adam Wilson-Weir, who's had a trip to the grass under the restart. He was all the way down in the time in none other than 33rd place, so he's dropped a long way back as a result of it, but now they can start to overtake, and that's a run wide there from other drivers. And that being the car of Gabriel Yilmaz that falls down the order. It is already a lap down. But Phil McDougall versus Kieran Smart here. These two fight their way on through. And right now, Joseph Doble there riding in right behind him. Through that right and in towards the long curve, and left they go. Doble right now looking to go back on the attack. But of course, a brief pause, a brief call for what is repose. And right now, Joe Doble here, who we ride on board with, thinking about how he can get into what is 17th or 16th. But McDougall there goes defensive versus Smart. Looking around the outside of McDougall is the Track Scotland driver. But Doble will see the door open here. And in that Honda, surely, who had the confidence to get the power down, he will. But that Elantra is no slouch there of Kieran Smart. And Smart right now is going to try and go around the outside instead of McDougall, who's just trying to box everybody in and park them all up. As they get ready to come towards the end of this lap, it's a switch back there. That's going to be Smart looking around the outside. This is good moving from Smart, using that momentum that he's been building all the way through the lap. And well, McDougall can only go defence on the inside here, but that will put him on the outside through what will be a Brooklands. And well, in fact, into Lovefield. And as they come through that long right-hander, well, it is going to be Kieran Smart who gets ahead with Joe Doble right behind. And I think McDougall's going to lose the 2 places here as he runs out wide. In fact, he's going to lose a third, because Jamie Dory now will seize the momentum and power his way on past. So McDougall there, brilliant fight, but unfortunately it's all gone a bit backwards. Alan McCain, your leader, is under pressure from Sam Exton. Lee Horn has found his way past Stuart Wynis since the restart, and here comes Exton for the lead of the race then, going up the inside as he tries to do so on the brakes. And McCain here is not going to back off as they make their way through the long sweep of turns. 3-4, but off the road goes Michael Clough, and he brings himself, well, no, it's not Michael Clough got off the road, that is Stuart Wynis who's got out wide there. Clough did have a brief wobble, but nowhere near the amount of Wynis, and now as they make the way up towards what will be turn number 5, well, Wynis falls all the way back to 11th place here, and will that stop the rot there? Maybe not, because Ben Altrier's looking for a move on him, but McCain and Exeter at the front, they put a brief pause on their battle. As you can see, all this field now started to bunch up. Speaking of which, Wojciech Swierdijk, and the second of the pro drives in this long line of cars, extends from the leader to 14th place. They are all right now still nose to tail here, but I wonder how long it's going to be before we start to see more 2 wides and perhaps a fracture of this, as Luciano Whitfoot on the inside there, Dan Mould has to trade a little bit of paint there to try and get ahead as they come under the bridge and in towards Priory, and Mould's not going to just let that go in a hurry as they now come through in towards turn number 9. And well, these drivers right now absolutely driving on the limit as they always do, but Mould goes spinning around into the gravel, and for Mould, what was looking to be a perfect end to the day has suddenly gone very, very much backwards. He gets himself back on the road, he rejoins, threads the needle, well timed there for Dan Mould, but that sent him a long way down the order, all the way down to the bottom end of the top 30, and I think that was contact there with Whitford. We will get a replay of that when we can, but meanwhile Isaac Doble here fights with Ben Altrier. This will be for 11th place. Altrier is on a charge for the 3rd time today, albeit if he can make some magic happen with all that weight in the car this time around, I will be massively impressed here, and I think everyone in the Prime class will be, to the point where I think the calls of what will be Altrier to Pro will definitely be stapled all over the car. Can't quite see a sticker on there. In fact, I think somebody has put one near the exhaust pipe on it, and that's why we can't see it, because it's in the spray. Bit cheeky whoever's done that, as he runs a bit wide as Altrier, but he just about keeps it together. Meanwhile, into the gravel trap there, that goes Matthew Cheverton. And the S10 racing drivers are going to relinquish some places, and indeed a number of primes are going to make the way up past, including Sam Smith, who goes around the outside of him. And just added insult to injury there, Sheraton has to burn a slight slowdown penalty, as we do see where's Dory and Smart head on the round, and Sheraton right now falling down all the way to 18th place. And that's the thing with the safety car, it's bunched everybody up to the point now whereby one small mistake and you may end up in a completely different postcode of this race. Andy Fox, meanwhile, he's not thinking about that as he battles his way on with Marcel Fritsch, trying to find his way up in the 20th place versus the 3rd place AM driver. And Fox right now, well, it's been a bit of a struggle today compared to how it could have been, but he's definitely enjoying the fighting out there. As, hold up a second, that's our AM leaders into the gravel. That's both Michael Clough and George Stone. They've both gone off the road. Marcel Fritsch right now is going to come through and take the lead of the AM class there. This is huge, and that's at Priory Bend. Michael Clough and Mark Hughes are now having a bit of a ding-dong battle, and in fact, it's not over yet because there's some elbows coming out there. I think Hughes is been able to clear what has been Carl Thompson, who was getting very firm there with George Stone, but right now Hughes and Clark battling side by side here as they make the way onto the start for this straight. We ride on board with Carl Thompson in the 774, who right now is trying to get a bit more involved here because understandably Hughes is his teammate in the AM class, Thompson in the Prime class here chasing after them, and he would like to be able to insert himself ahead of the AM driver in front of him, so that way he can hold up the number 14 for a little bit, albeit fairly, all in the name of fighting, and understandably give Hughes an opportunity to run away. But we're going to need to understand what exactly happened there, because that was a sequence of events that happened very quickly, and it's completely shaken up the AM podium places, as that's a mistake there from Chloe going deep there at turn 2 into 3, and Thompson comes in like a bit of a bulldozer there. I don't think that was intentional. I think that was a mistake, and that's going to put what will be Chloe even further down the order. He drops all the way down to 26th now, as Carl Thompson carries on there and demonstrates the fact these touring cars can definitely take a bit of a beating. But to the front of the field, your leaders right now of McCain and Exton are getting much closer and more acquainted with each other. As that's going to be Exton looking around the outside to the inside here. Sam Exton goes all in for Team Big Lips. And right now, he makes it count. Sam Exton with a lovely move. He takes over at the very front of the field as Lee Horn queues up behind him. So does Craig Tardock. And so does Wojciech Swiderich. You can see them in the rear of the picture. And Luciano Whitfoot's only 1.5 seconds away. Right now, the Project 26 team are inching closer and closer to this group. And even if they don't make it another 1-2 today, that'll be another huge haul of team points. And also their drivers, another good haul of overall championship points, and it will definitely enable them to open up quite a sizable lead going into our next round. Well, as they come across the timeline, on to lap number 10, Craig Twardock in amongst all this, and Twardock right now has been one of those drivers who's just been building over the course of today. Races 1 and 2, he showed a lot of potential and pace, and right now put him at the front of the field in the Prime class. He's getting absolutely antsy with all these pro drivers around him. He's right now, he doesn't care if they're pro, Prime or Am, he's going to take them all on. And as they come in towards turns 2, 3 and 4, Lee Horn and Wojciech Swiderich fight. Swiderich up the inside of Horn. That's going to be a move into fourth place as quickly as that. Swiderich clears Horn, and right now Horn will tuck in behind him, and I wonder whether they'll work mutually together to chase down the Primes or whether their fight will end in fourth place. We'll have to see, but right now no difference between the two of them. That's a certainty as we take a look back to what happened on lap number 7 and lap number 8. So some big moments, starting with this for Dan Mould. Now, at the time, this was Mould making his way in towards turn number 8, went onto the brakes here, turned on in, and as he did so, goodness me, the car seemed to just go around on him there. That was a bit of an odd one, that for Mould. What was it from the camera angle? Well, he was battling at the time with Luciano Whitford, who was on the outside of him. Understeered a little bit there, and I think with the fact he was rubbing door to door with Whitfoot, he got turned across the front of Whitfoot's car. I don't think there's much that could be done there given the angles of the cars. That's an unfortunate one. The steward's going to have a hard time picking that one apart. But then we had this absolute mad moment which happened only moments later. This was Chloe and also none other than Stone, both having big off tracks at Priory Bend for the lead and second in the AM class. And well, in the end, goodness me, well, Chloe was just minding his own business, and then suddenly there was contact with George Stone, who sent him wide. And well, I think at the time Stone had already made a mistake, ended up on the grass, and at that point he was really hoping he didn't collect the man. Here was your replay, and this was the on board with George Stone at the time, so came through bridge, carried a lot of speed up the hill on that inside. Under braking there. Was there a tap or not? We don't know, but there was the aftermath, and that's when he collected Michael Clough, and they both went sailing off the road, and with that opened up the lead of the AM class even more. But back to your live pictures we come. We're on to lap number 11, and as these laps continue to trickle down quite rapidly now, well, we've got the teammates of Swiderich and Whitfoot together here. They're fighting over fourth. Whitfoot has passed Lee Horn off camera, and meanwhile behind Horn and Isaac Doble are going too wide, just behind the two Project 26 cars. This is getting a little bit interesting here, because I think we're trying to see Swiderich and Whitfoot trying to establish a pecking order in each other here, albeit I'm sure the teammates have a protocol for this. They are fighting each other, but they're also trying to understand who's going to be the lead car in this. You would imagine that Swiderich should be the lead car because he's got a little bit less weight in his car compared to Whitfoot, but based on pace today, Whitfoot has proven to be the faster driver out of the pair, even with all the weight in the car in that Audi. And Swiderich has been close, but he's not been close enough. So a bit of an intrigue there. Swiderich trying to keep him at bay. Your top three of Primes right now just start to sail away. They are 2 seconds clear at the very front. But we can see the circuit is drying quite quickly now, albeit wet tyres will be the call all the way to the end. You can see that the wet line is quite pronounced at this point, or say the dry line is quite pronounced, I should say, and what is the wet contours of the road, meanwhile, offering plenty of calling opportunities. But I think our drivers here don't need to worry about cooling the tyres down. They've just got to make sure they keep their tempers cool. Coming back here to Dan Mould after his spin, his altercation, only what was the best part of 5 laps back. He's now down in 28th, battling with also the man who was leading AM until it all went wrong on the lap after it. And Michael Clough on lap number 8 had it all go wrong. And Mould right now just waiting behind with his teammate Adam Delman in the wings there. And I suspect NXTGEN Green, they're going to have to regroup after today. This has not worked out at all for them. As the Type 2 racing machine, the George Stone, battles with Mikey Doe, goes around the outside there. As meanwhile, a long trip to the grass for Michael Clough. He gets it together. Stone, meanwhile, slides loose. And Mikey Doe takes back the place that he just had taken from him as quickly as that. Lewis Mason will go around the outside there of Stone, who rejoins, and Mason right now tucking in behind what will be the machinery there, albeit it is the NXTGEN Green car that I believe is none other than just in front of him, and onto the brakes they go, and that's going to be Jack Brown versus Lewis Mason, and in the end it's going to be Mason who gets ahead of him as he makes that move and he makes it count. But all these drivers right now, for all their battling, not getting any points. Lewis Mason gets turned across the front there of what is Jack Brown's car. Now, whether that's Jack Brown's fault or not, that'll be up to the stewards afterwards. But definitely there, Lewis Mason's pace being completely turned backwards in time. But meanwhile, we look back inside the top 10. It is Joe Doble, who has somehow, through all of this, found his way all the way up into the top 10. Well, we said never give up. And indeed, Joe Doble demonstrating that philosophy straight away as he battles here with Lee Horn. Can he go around the outside of Horn as Benjamin Gregory is practically pushing what is Joe Doble to get this move done. He was riding the rear bumper, and I think Doble's going to get this sorted out as Gregory now goes to the switchback here versus Horn. And Benjamin Gregory, I think he's got a place to catch, let alone a bus, and the Full Tilt Motorsport driver comes down in towards turns 2 and 3. He's definitely right now bearing his fangs to Horn, and Horn, with all that weight in the car from his race 2 result, I think he's struggling a little bit for what is the pace at this point, with only 2 laps left to go. But back to the fight for 4th, and right now Spiridich is still ahead of Whitfoot, but they've brought Isaac Doble and Altria back into this, and Isaac Doble at this point, he's definitely thinking about a potential move here under braking. As you can see, Spiridich defending to the inside, and Whitfoot literally following him there, and Altria meanwhile wait as the two teammates touch there. Spiridich and Whitfoot really are not giving each other any ground at the moment. I think they're enjoying this, but they've got to be careful. The amount of fighting they're putting on, one small mistake here, and what has been a real golden day at the office for their season opener and their maiden run as a team. Well, right now it could all be undone, and here comes Isaac Doble to try and spoil the party as he goes up the inside there versus Whitfoot, and Altria's going to try and come through with it, but too wide they enter in towards turn number 8. They'll then quickly come round to the right-hand side of turn number 9, and as they do, Whitfoot is pushed behind Isaac Doble, but he gets back on the inside, and now Isaac Doble here is going to try and mount a charge all the way around the outside of Woodcock Bend and to the timing line, because if he doesn't, Whitfoot's going to be ahead by the time they get to Copse Corner as Ben Altria rolls on the back of them here, and we are on to our final lap of racing for today. My goodness me, it has been a race that has kept us guessing every step of the way, but right now Ben Altria makes his way in behind Isaac Doble, knowing that the top 3 of the Prime class are surely out of his reach, and well, I think for the first time in a long time in the series history, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to see an all-overall Pro-Am podium. Indeed, we haven't seen that for the best part of what has been 4 seasons, if my memory serves me correctly. But Sam Exton right now is going to be the man to do it. The first time we ever saw it happen, of course, was none other than in what was season 2 at the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben, with the first ever Prime win overall, and that went to none other than Reece Watt at the time in that incredible race there at the midpoint of the season in Germany. But right now, this top 3 of Exton, McCain and Twaldock are doing a fantastic job. They've all put together brilliant races, and they all deserve their time on the overall podium, as Wojciech Spiridich right now continuing to try and frustrate everybody behind him. He just does not want to give up those places. Further back, we've got a bit of a scramble here under brake, and that's Lewis Delmont defending versus Kieran Smart and Marcel Fritsch. They go 3 wide, and the lead of the AM class there steps incredibly wide. He doesn't want to lose the lead of the class, and with Mark Hughes the best part of 4 seconds behind, understandably Fritsch would rather lose the places than fight for something that's not worth his time. I don't blame him for that one, because the overall points are not worth it. The class win is absolutely worth every penny and point. But meanwhile then, as they all head towards the finish line, well, here's your top 3 as they come out the final quarter, and Sam Exton right now, well, it has been an absolutely brilliant race for Exton. He took the lead midway through, and he hasn't let go of it since then. Sam Exton on his debut becomes an overall winner in an NXTCC race in the Prime class, and is named to a list of 12 individuals now who've done so. Alan McCain takes the runner-up spot, and it will be Craig Twaldock who comes on home in 3rd place for the Sim Racing Collective, ahead of Wojciech Spiridich, your leading pro driver, ahead of teammate Luciano Whitfoot, with Isaac Doble, Ben Altria, Joe Doble and Stuart Wyness and Lee Horn completing that top 10. But what about Marcel Fritsch, ladies and gentlemen? Well, he's done it He takes the AM win, his first AM win of the season there. What a great job from him in the number 7, the defending AM champion, ahead of Mark Hughes, who comes up in 23rd, second place, back-to-back AM podiums for him. And Michael Clough in the end, well, he'll be frustrated that he couldn't quite make it another AM win, but third place in class, that's no mean feat given the competitive calibre of the AM class and the conditions they've raced in today. As everybody cools their race on down, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a couple of drives still to finish, including Gabriel Yilmaz and also Sean Doby as they fight, albeit on alternative laps. And just in front of them is Joshua Downing, who sees his checker flag for 43rd overall and 18th in Pro-Am. But here come Doby and also what is Gabriel Yilmaz to the finish line, ladies and gentlemen. Give them all a round of applause. They all deserve it because this season opener, they've had to negotiate some absolutely treacherous conditions here in what has been the Silverstone circuit. But they finish their races and we look back to the very front of the field, and as we do, well, for Sam Exton, he's going to want to soak this all in. Your first overall win in the NXTCC is a special one, no doubt about it, because you really do have the creme of the creme in TCR racing drivers here on this grid. And, well, Sam Exton right now makes his way into the pit lane, and this will be a huge, huge celebration for the Team Big Licks driver in the number 22. Unfortunately, due to poor lighting, we can't quite see his wonderful colourful helmet, but what we can tell you is he's done a fantastic job, and he'll be flanked by Alan McCain and Craig Twardock, your other two podium finishers, both Pro-Am and overall. Why Tricks Woodite? Well, it definitely was a show today that Project 26 for Alpha Touring Challenge are not afraid to let their drivers go racing. But for Luciano Whitfoot, he's definitely going to know now he's not going to have it all his own way in the teammate battle. As Marcel Fritsch makes his way into the pits as well. What a win for the AM driver there. The number 7 shines high once again for the Austrian outfit. And Mark Hughes just a little bit further behind him. And Michael Clough, well, what a run of podiums to them. And Michael Clough in particular, really impressive on his debut to almost in all 3 races take the AM win, albeit this one was a bit heartbreaking given the contact that he had with George Stone when he was minding his own business at what was Priory Bend. But for Michael Clough, he can't look back on it. He's got to think it's been a brilliant foundation and the only way is up from here as the circuit falls silent and we take a look to the scenic view and bring you those provisional results subject to any steward's inquiries. So after another 14 laps of racing with a brief safety car period of what was 3 laps, Sam Exton took victory overall and in the Pro-Am class for Team Big Lips ahead of Alan McCain for Iris Esports powered by Crest Autosport, who in the end was your runner-up. He was 8 tenths behind, but a further what was 2.5 tenths ahead of Craig Twardock for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, who takes his first overall podium of the season and his first what is a Pro-Am podium in the final race of the day on his debut round. Wojciech Swerdijk, 4th for Project 26 for Alpha Touring Challenge, enjoying that fight with his teammate Luciano Whitfoot, for the two separated by a 10th at the finish line. And then Isaac Doble was 6th for Doble Sim Racing, just ahead of Ben Altria. The full Tilty Motorsport driver in the end was a clear of Joseph Doble by the best part of almost a second, with the Doble Sim Racing driver coming all the way through the field over the 3 races to finally find a top 10 finish at the close. Stuart Winnis was 9th there for Track Scotland, ahead of Lee Horn, with the NXTGEN Orange driver falling down the field with a success ballast, but doing well to arrest the rot at 10th place. He was ahead of Phil McDougall, who finished 11th. And the CXR Project Black driver moving forward as the racing went on, head of none other than the NXTGEN pink pair of Matthew Jordan and Jamie Dory. The Audi RS3 looked much more capable in Dory's hands compared to the Elantra of last season, but the results didn't quite show it today perhaps, but he was ahead of Benjamin Gregory and Matthew Cheverton, who completed your top 15. The RS Esports powered by Crest Autosport machine of Sam Smith made its way to 16th in the end, and with it was 10th place in the Prime class. Well done to him on that performance, some good points. Just ahead of Lewis Delmont, with Andrew Pike, Mikey Doble and Kieran Smart completing that top 20. And how about that? Andrew Pike and Mikey Doble both having difficult starts to this race, both end up inside the top 20. It goes to show you the calibre of those two drivers and how they can find a way through. Outside that top 20, it was 21st place to Marcel Fritsch, your AM winner for this one. Well done to him for WS Racing Esports, head of Wayne Douglas. And then Mark Hughes was your runner-up in the AM class of GBRC, head of Dan Mole for NXTGEN Green, and NXTGEN Orange's Michael Clough, who in the end round off the AM podium there. We saw Jack Brown 26th ahead of Nick Clivins, with Joe Coffin, Nigel Stock and Joseph Wright round off your top 30, with Nigel Stock in the end finally nailing some big points in the final race of the day, where he'd been definitely down the bottom of the field for the majority of the racing today. Sammy Reid was 31st ahead of Michael Leese, with Stephen Fry 33rd for iRace Esports ahead of George Stone, the Type 2 racing driver in the end, pushing onwards ahead of Mark Sykes, Roy Plummer, Fraser Rostant, Andy Fox, Andy Aldhouse and Adrian Fritsch. That was your top 40. Outside that top 40, not to be forgotten about, we had Joshua Downing, Adam Delman and Carl Thompson, with Sean Doby completing those on the lead lap in 44th ahead of lap down finishers Lewis Mason, Alex Meredith, Scott Malcolm and Gabriel Yilmaz, and then we did sadly have the retirements of Adam Wilson-Weir and Logan McKenzie. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that was our final race of the day. And indeed, there's no more racing to come here at Silverstone as we look forward to move ahead for 2 weeks' time to Japan for the Fuji International Speedway. But don't fret, this broadcast is not quite over yet because we are going to step away for about 5 minutes' time and then we'll be back for our first post-round interviews of the season. Don't go anywhere, you won't miss them, ladies and gents, because there's always a story to be told by our drivers no matter where they finished, and that's what these interviews are all about. We will see you very shortly. Right, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time for our post-round interviews. And we're going to kick off by starting off a bit further down the order. We're going to be starting in the AM class, because joining me now in the interview room is going to be none other than Joseph Wright. Joseph, we spoke to you a little bit earlier on this evening, and you were having a good old time out there, no doubt about it. However, as the day's gone on, it's gone from a podium to a 9th place to a 5th in the AM class. How would you rate your first round of the season?
Well, I wouldn't rate it very highly in the last race particularly, stalling off the line, but I learnt from it definitely. I think that I've definitely learnt from these conditions. They're very, very tricky. I was doing it in VR for the first time as well, so there was a lot to learn. But the racing itself was great. Even in the second race, the third race, when I was down towards the back, actually, I had some really good fights out there, and it was excellent fun just to give it all I could. And I definitely had pace, and I think if I didn't get caught up in that hairpin accident in race 2, I would have been up there again on that podium. I definitely felt like I had that pace to be there. And in the final race, I was very, very fortunate the safety car came out, because with the stall on the line, I was hit and I had broken suspension on that first lap. So without it, I would have really struggled that race. But yeah, I think coming home in that one, a 5th position in that final race was a massive recovery, I felt, for me, and overall was a really good, consistent with first and third race. I'm just going to pretend race 2 didn't happen in that one and just walk out from this and just have top 5s. There you go.
Oh, fair play. I mean, we can always improve, like you say, and things go wrong. But to be fair, I think, all things considered, for your first ever time in the NXTCC, you've definitely done yourself proud. And coming into this season, I've got to ask, what made you pick your choice of car in the form of, I do believe it's the Hyundai Elantra?
It is the Elantra. The reason I went for it is aesthetics, really. I think it's the best looking car, and it's one that I like just looking at. So getting down into it, I've learnt it. I know I've been speaking a lot to Jamie. I know that he struggled with the car last season. He told me pick any car apart from the Elantra, but I still went with it anyway. And I'm glad I did, actually, because looking at tonight, I know the Elantra's strong in the wet, and I certainly think that replicated itself tonight. I think I had that overall speed. And with some of the tracks we got coming up, I think we're going to see more rain. So I think overall I've chosen a good car. I got it kicking around about halfway through as well. So just tweak the brake bias a little bit to get the front end to turn. And once I did that, I felt like I was flying out there.
Well, definitely a challenging car for some to get to grips with, but like you say, for yourself, a car you're enjoying, and we saw that enjoyment replicated both in qualifying and also race number 1. And just off the back of that, I mean, we're taking a bit of a trip back in time to Silverstone as it was in 2008. I have to ask you, is this one of those circuits that you love, or are you more of a newer Silverstone person? Because it's split decisions over the years who prefers which version of Silverstone.
I'm very much an old Silverstone. I'm very nostalgic, though, so this is the circuit that I went to all the time watching BTCC as I was growing up, and it's just down the road from me, so this is the circuit that I know and love. The modern one, I like the national layout, but there's just so much more to this international layout in particular, especially the section under the bridge where the go-kart track is now. I'm so gutted that that's never going to come back, and I thought there was always a potential. But when they paved over it, it was like, no, it's gone forever.
Oh, indeed. It's unfortunate it's gone, but it still lives on in the simulator. And off the back of race number 1, again, we spoke to you after that first race. We were so happy about it. Coming into race number 2, where were you at all that? Because it all was going so well, and then it just went so wrong.
Yeah, so on the start of race number 2, the launch itself was really slow. I just cannot get these off the line. But once I managed to get up towards turn number 1, I found myself, I believe at one point I was leading the M's as I headed into the hairpin. And then I was just, I heard the call, there's a car up your inside. I'm not going to go super wide at that corner because I knew from race number 1 that actually I can hang it quite tight there with the car up the inside. Unfortunately, this time, though, it just ended in contact from behind. I didn't think I had major contact, but as I was trying to get back on the track, obviously there was a lot of cars around, I got sideswiped, and that just broke my suspension, and I was driving with my wheel 90 degrees, so I had no choice to pit on that one, and I was quite surprised not to see the safety car. I was really hoping for it in race number 2 to get back up to it, but it is what it is. I had a great fight at the back of the field in that one anyway, so at the end of the day, it was a P9, but I enjoyed it. It was a fun evening no matter where I was on the field.
All fair play. It sounds as though you definitely enjoyed that one. And then in race number 3, I mean, what happened at the start there? I mean, don't worry, there's nothing wrong with it. We've had pros stall their cars off the line as well.
So, as I said, I just don't know how to get these cars off the line. I was trying a slightly different technique on the start there. Didn't go to plan, lost the gear, and because I'd started to roll, I just couldn't get the ignition started again. Then I was just hoping that I'd be avoided. Unfortunately, I wasn't. I got it stopped again once all the field got back past so I could get the engine going. But ultimately, I think that probably saved me a little bit because of the massive accident at the last turn of lap 1, and I saw the yellows, and I put on the anchors. I was at the back of the field. I thought, I'm not even going to get involved in this one. Shimmied my way through, but I was very fortunate with that safety car, so I could pit with that one. And yeah, ended up, P5. I think, the way that I was pushing, me and Stephen Fry, we got into a really heated battle at the end of that one, trying to hold on to that top 5. We knocked each other a couple of times, and I was really worried when we knocked each other on the penultimate lap, because I thought my suspension had gone on that one. Fortunately, it hadn't. I was able to hold it on. But, the mix of fights, I was able to fight with the pros, the pro-ams. I wasn't giving anyone an easy go. And it just led to some fantastic racing.
Oh, no doubt about it. You've had a lot of fun. I could hear it in your voice. And with round number 1 in the books, we look ahead to 2 weeks' time now for the Fuji International Speedway. What can we expect from you in Japan?
I think I've never driven the track. So, first of all, I got to get out there, put some laps in, that's for sure. But I think if it's similar conditions to this, I think I'm going to find the pace again. I think with these conditions, I've really found my foot. I did some dry laps around Silverstone before I knew that it was going to be wet, and I couldn't find a pace at all. Rain out there in the wet, and I could find it. So if it's wet in a couple of weeks' time, I think I'm going to be able to put it up there on the podium again, hopefully in more than just one race. If it's dry, then it's just going to be about trying to get the brake bias working for me and just trying to find any time that I can. Like I said, I've not driven the track yet ever before, so it's a new one for me.
All fair play. Well, definitely a new one for you, and happy practicing ahead, no doubt about it. But just as we get ready to let you go for the evening, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to on the broadcast tonight?
There is. I have to do a big thank you to Jamie. He's the one that has helped me get down onto the field for this one. It's my first time getting down there. Obviously, I've been doing the broadcasts for the Mazdas and the upcoming Legends, and yeah, he's been very helpful in teaching me how the car works, and I've been able to get there and do some practicing. So Jamie has been a big hand in me being able to get a podium tonight.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I'm sure Jamie will be very happy to hear that gratitude from yourself. With that, Joseph, we'll leave it there. Congratulations once again on an absolutely brilliant debut for yourself. A podium in your first ever race of the AM class, and also a top 5 to add to it if we just write over race number 2. But with that, my dear friend, have a great rest of your evening, and we look forward to seeing you in Japan in 2 weeks' time to see whether you can add another podium to your run.
Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you.
So, here and there from Joseph Wright, ladies and gentlemen. Well, whether he's in the commentary booth or alternatively in the car, I can tell you one thing, he is full of energy, and that's wonderful to see. And he's so happy about his performances today, and that gratitude there to Jamie Dory, even though he's chosen the car that's proven to be the bane of the 2-time NXTCC overall champion's existence in this series. Well, he's gone with it, he enjoys the feel of it, and he's definitely showing that he's very comfortable in it, and that might be something which he might be by the end of the season teaching Jamie Dory how to drive it. You never know, to be fair. But slight joking aside, today he was impressive in qualifying and race number 1. putting things together, and whilst not having too much experience in the car, really getting to grips and finding the Elantra's quite strong in the wet. So going into the races, he definitely felt he had the confidence on his side, and it came to shine in race 1. Race number 2, however, things didn't go quite right. Talked about there being the fact that after his trip off track, where it all went a bit nasty at the hairpins, he tried to get things back together, so to write off race 2 to then try for race number 3. But in race 3, he stalled off the line, as we saw in the replay footage. But the upside of it all, of course, being the fact that what he did end up having happen was the fact that the safety car came out. In a way, it rescued him a little bit, and he was able to go fighting and enjoyed a brilliant run for his 5th place in the AM class, fighting amongst the likes of Stephen Fry all the way towards the very end. So the skies are looking bright there for Joseph Wright, but can he make it another podium in Fuji? Well, practice awaits him, but if he does the practice right, I suspect it could be podiums or even a first win of the season. We've got more interviews to come, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back very shortly for our second interview of the day. And so, ladies and gentlemen, joining me now in the interview room is none other than the man who made it 2 wins out of 3 today overall. It is Luciano Whitford. Good evening to you, Luciano. What a day from yourself. I mean, we've had you on the grid for several seasons and you've taken overall wins, but you've never quite had a round like this to begin your season. You must be pleased.
Yeah, good evening to you, Paul. I mean, yeah, coming back this season, I figured, I really want to become champion once at least. It has been taken away from me now a few times, so this season I'm going to be a little more aggressive on the driving style and just try to push my way forward a little bit more. And of course, minimize the DNFs. That's the most important thing.
Oh, indeed. I mean, you definitely showed it today. You bared your fangs from the start. And let's talk a little bit about your car choice. Of course, on the grid with Project 26 for Alpha Touring Challenge, and you've opted to come in the Audi RS3. Is that a personal decision or is that a team decision?
No, that's a personal decision. My teammates went for the Veloster, and I've had some good seasons in the Audi, and I know the Audi can handle the weight. Especially the tracks we're going to. Maybe near the end I'm going to be at a disadvantage, but like I said, I'm going to be dealing with the weight a lot, so I think that's the most important factor in choosing the car for me. Because I know the Veloster can struggle a little bit when you put 100 liters in the car and a little bit less, so Audi was a personal choice for me.
Well, fair play. A personal choice that's definitely paid providence. And going into qualifying, we saw you take pole position in some very tricky conditions. I mean, were you expecting pole position given the rain added up to the older version of Silverstone?
I wasn't necessarily expecting it. I was certainly going for it. I ran the practice yesterday and the week before that, so I knew the pace in the wet would be good. But we also knew we had a little bit of a dry patch in the beginning of qualifying, so you had to get your laps in quite early, and if it was not in the cards, then we know once the rain starts, then there's no going back for a quicker lap. So it was all just a little bit of luck involved. So I have a clear track in front of me. That wasn't totally the case, but I had enough room to make it work.
Well, you certainly made it work. And then going into race number 1, we saw you in arguably the race that proves whether you are the fastest driver or not, because nobody has success ballast in the car. But slight joke aside, you took the lead and you controlled it all the way. Did you expect it to be that straightforward?
Well, the start was kind of shaky. I didn't get off the line quite as good as I wanted to. So going side by side with Mike into turn 1 was something I didn't anticipate, but it all turned out fine. But once I got in front and I could manage the pace, I kind of had a feeling that it was going to be really hard to pass because it's wet and there's only one line that really pays off in terms of grip. So I wasn't really too worried. Once I got in front and once I got, I could control the pace, it was all straightforward from there on out.
Well, it all was quite straightforward after that point once you got control of the situation. So a first win of the season in the no ballast race. But after that, we put 56 kilograms straight in the car and it was off to race number 2. But race number 2, again, quick start, held the lead, and after a time, it was yourself and your teammate Wojciech Swirodajc battling for the right to victory, and a 1-2 at the end.
Yeah, I was quite surprised that a lot of people dropped off. I was looking at the relative and I saw that we were quite far ahead. So that was quite good. And Wojciech mentioned that near the end he was struggling with the velocity a little bit in terms of grip. So I wasn't pushing too hard, and we were not really going at it as we used to do in the past. So it was all about controlling the pace, just get those points home, and secure ourselves for race 3 in case anything goes wrong.
Well, a rather straightforward way to wrap up race 2 and earning the 1-2 that slightly slipped out your team's grip in race number 1. Race number 3 then, we reversed the grid from 17th place. When that was announced, was there any sort of reaction from yourself or the team, or was it just, okay, we know what the job is, let's get on with it?
Yeah, basically that. It doesn't matter if it's P25, P30, P17, it doesn't matter. Once you're behind everyone, you have to, dive in a different mindset of you still have to be quick, and like I said, I have to be more aggressive now, but you also have to be mindful of everyone around you. So you're looking in your mirror a lot more, and side-to-side action is a lot more important, because we had a big pileup coming out of the last corner, and that's something if I was side by side with someone, I couldn't have reacted the way I did. So it's really important how you place yourself, especially in a wet race like this.
Oh, indeed, car placement so critical, and like you said, that huge instant coming through Woodcock Corner at the end of lap number 1, leading to many a driver having to retire from the race, but not yourself necessarily. And as the race went on, we saw what was the top 3 of all Prime drives gradually start to creep away, with Lee Horn falling back and yourself and Wojciech gradually pushing through. But there was a point in the end where the two of you seemed more interested in fighting each other than chasing down the top 3.
Yeah, I think I had a little bit more pace to the end. It was again the same issue as race 2. Like in the end, his grip was totally gone, and I started pushing a little bit harder, and that resulted in us going side by side for a little bit. Unfortunately, Isaac Doble got behind me and a little bit too close, so I couldn't attack as hard as I wanted to, and the safety car also took away too many laps from the race to really push for that third victory. I think if we would have had 3-4 more laps of racing, it could have been a little bit more interesting, but for now, the P5, I'll take it. It's good points, no DNF, and that's what we're aiming for.
Or indeed, a huge haul of points to start off your season. And in the team's championship consideration, excluding race 3, sadly, for Logan McKenzie, the 3 of you as a new outfit on the NXTCC grid, achieving a huge haul of points. It's going to make you our initial championship leaders, I suspect. I mean, just a little bit of background perhaps on the team, because it sounds as though it's really one of the dream teams that we could ask for in the NXTCC.
Yeah, it was quite unexpected. Like I started Project 26 2-3 months ago with 5 other friends, and it all kicked off from there. And then I announced, I'm gonna do NXTGEN again, and I asked in the Discord if someone needs a teammate. Wojciech approached me with the proposal to run together, and of course I knew if we're gonna do that, then we have a really good shot at the team championship. So that wasn't a hard decision at all. And then he mentioned Logan was coming along, and I mean, that basically completed the dream team as for now. So I don't think it's gonna be that much, that we have to struggle with, like working together. But it's definitely new for us. I didn't expect this partnership to come along this quickly.
Well, it's a huge partnership, and I can tell you one thing. You guys have got your fans, and you as a driver have got your fans. I see Conrad Kula there in the YouTube chat saying, Whitfoot, best TCR driver in Europe, and you're definitely living up to that statement already. But a lot of rounds still to go. Next up, Japan, Fuji in 2 weeks' time. What can we expect from you there?
I think the same as usual. I'm going to go for pole. If it's not in the table, then I'm going to fight my way through it like I always do. And like I said, just a little bit more aggressive this season, a little bit more pushing towards the front, because last season I was patient and I was careful, and I still got DNFs and people crashing in front of me and killing me and whatever. So this season it's all about attacking and getting to the front as quickly as I can. So yeah, we'll see. I think Fuji will be good for it. A lot more room to go side by side. I don't know if we get any rain. If we get any rain, then that's also good, because the Audi favors the rain.
Oh, goodness me. I'm loving the confidence. I'm loving the spirit you're bringing to this, Luciano. And as we do get ready to let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a mention to on the broadcast?
Yeah, definitely. My team, Project 26, like all of the guys have been helping me backstage a lot, especially Conrad Kula, who has been making deliveries, all the graphic designs for the Instagram and the socials. So yeah, without those guys, the whole team wouldn't exist basically. So I'm really thankful for them. And of course, my NXTGEN teammates, Logan and Wojciech. It's going to be one hell of a season with them on board.
Oh, 100%. I'm with you on that. Luciano, we'll leave it there. Thank you for joining me for an interview this evening. A very impressive start with 2 wins and also a 5th place. There's plenty more to come from yourself in Japan in 2 weeks' time. I'm certain of that. But until then, have a great rest of your evening and we will see you at Fuji.
Yeah. Thanks, mate. See ya.
So here and there from Luciano Whitfoot, ladies and gentlemen, and my goodness, you can feel the confidence dripping off of the words as he talks there, and the fact that he's here this season to win, and mentioned there, previous seasons he's been a bit too conservative, he hasn't been as aggressive as he should have been, and that's led to DNS and him falling short multiple times. Indeed, I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, he is a 4-time runner-up or 3rd place runner-up in the NXTCC Overall Championship. Nobody arguably has fallen that far short compared to anybody else in the series, so that's why he's here. He's here with a bit of an attitude, but to be fair, a bit of an attitude is what he's needed, and I think the way he started today, if he can carry this on into the first couple of rounds, even though he's expecting the Audi to struggle as the season goes on at later circuits, he could definitely be looking for that first title sooner rather than expected. But still, there's a long way to go, and even he's acknowledged that, and with the team he's brought with him in the form of Swieridich and also McKinsey, understandably, they're going to be pushing each other every step of the way, and they've got plenty of competition out there to keep them honest as well. But for Luciano Whitfoot at the moment, at least, he's definitely looking to be the man to beat. But we've got one more interview to come, ladies and gentlemen. Who's it going to be with? Well, we'll find out very shortly. And so for our final interview of this evening, ladies and gentlemen, joining me in the interview room now is none other than Logan McKinsey. Good evening to you, Logan. And well, what a day it's been for yourself and the Project 26 for Alpha Touring Challenge team. You're new on the grid and you've all impressed. For yourself, however, races 1 and 2, a great start to the season. Race 3, however, left a lot to be desired, perhaps? Well, I think, ladies and gentlemen, if Logan's speaking, it's not coming through the microphone at the moment. We'll see what we can do about that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, just bear with us. A slight technical hitch, but we will try to get this resolved when we can. It won't take us too long, hopefully, to hear from our final interview of the evening. But what we'll do, we will be right back, and we'll try to bring you the interview with Logan McKinsey. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, well, good news is we now have him available with us. Everything's been sorted. Logan McKinsey now joins me for our final interview of the evening. Good evening, or good afternoon, I should say, to you, Logan. What a way to start off your debut in the NXTCC, although this won't feel too dissimilar because of your time with the Alpha Touring Challenge, which runs in parallel to this. But how do you think your debut round has gone?
It was a fun one. Considering I think that I'm absolutely terrible in the rain, so 2 P9s against this kind of competition at a layout that I hadn't run before this week was it was about as good as I could have asked for. Obviously, the third race didn't go as planned, but I don't think there was anything I could have done there, so that's just racing in the end.
Oh, indeed. Well, we'll come on to race number 3 in due course, but let's start about the positives. So, on the grid for this season, new team joining up with some of the powerhouses, of course, in touring car, Wojciech Swierdajc and the man we spoke to just before yourself, Luciano Whitford. It's a big team there, and Luciano was saying about the fact that it was a bit of an unexpected team at the final hour. But for yourself, I mean, it must feel as though there's a big grin on your face in the fact that you're really matching up with some of the best drivers out there, and you yourself are no slouch in a touring car.
Yes, it was wonderful to hear from Waj, who helped put the team together. And of course, we had raced together in DC, so we had that connection. So he wanted to get on a team together and introduced me to Luciano and going after that team championship. Myself, I'm just here to support the team. I doubt I'll be fast enough to challenge for the drivers or anything, but it's my first season, so just getting settled in, and it's great to have those two showing me the ropes in this series.
All fair play. And speaking about your personal performances then, qualifying, 10th overall, 8th of the pros out there. It looks like it was a qualifying session where you needed to get your lap in sooner rather than later, but how was it?
Yeah, we could see the rain coming in on the radar, so we knew it would be somewhere between 2 to 4 laps of actual qualifying, and I think I got 1 lap in that I was decently happy with. Just so hard to judge the conditions, but I was very thrilled to be in the top 10 because I felt like if I get up, at least I stay with the rest of the pros, then I can avoid any of the chaos that may ensue mid-race. But overall, it ended up being clean anyway. There was nothing to avoid those first couple of races. But the qualifying was a huge help.
Or indeed a huge help, like you say. So race number 1, we saw you in the end move a little bit further up the order to 9th place, which is where you finished. In that race, of course, enjoying some quite good battling, and I do believe sharing a good portion of the track with none other at certain points than was the likes of Andrew Pike and also Stuart Winnis. How you found it fighting with them? Because you've got some drivers out there who, of course, they've been on this grid for some time, albeit it must just feel as though it's home from home. It's classic touring car racing.
Yeah, and especially Andrew, I think we went side by side for almost a whole lap at one point. We've seen each other and maybe raced in a few things together, like endurance stuff, but that's the first time we've really gotten elbows out like that, I think, at least in a very long time. So that was great. It was really clean racing. There was a moment there where I almost spun him as he pitched me onto the grass, but we got through it. It was great touring car racing. Stewart, I had to worry about for a lot of that. I think it was the second race where he was just on my back bumper for a lot of it.
Oh, and speaking of that second race, of course, after race 1, given it your 9th place finish, and then we did load your car with a little bit of weight, the best part of 8.7 kilograms. How did you find running with the success ballast?
I'm more interested to see how it affects the dry racing. I think the wet racing neutralized the ballast a little bit. Not completely. You could definitely tell, for example, in that second race, Adam was struggling to stay ahead of a few cars that he should have had no problem with. But for the most part, the lower levels of ballast, I think they're going to have more an effect on the dry. So I'm interested to see how that affects Fuji.
All fair play. And again, bringing on home another 9th place finish in race number 2. Highly consistent in the first 2 races, but race number 3 comes around. It all goes a bit wrong. Where were you in the madness of the opening lap?
I had a pretty clean opening lap. I don't remember anything too eventful happening before the crash, honestly. And then we come out of the final corner, and I guess I only looked up just in time to see Adam spinning, but my view was blocked by the car ahead of me. So I think I saw Adam for about a half second or a second. And the way he had been spun around, it was hard to tell whether he was going to go over to the right or swing back left, and he swung back left. And so I think I was the first car to hit him. And then I saw that some carnage ensued afterward, but unfortunately, I couldn't get back around to the pits, and then I was 10 seconds off the back of the pack when the safety car went ahead. So that was my race, but kind of unavoidable. So what can you do?
All very true. These incidents will happen every so often. Sometimes you're lucky, sometimes you're not. But still, thinking of the wider picture, a great start to the season for yourself and the team. And next up is Fuji in 2 weeks' time. What are your targets there?
I would love to do well at Fuji. I've raced there a few times in touring cars, mostly in ATC. And it's an interesting one just because of the length of the straight. Obviously, the field's going to stay probably a bit more compressed. So I think it's going to be a lot spicier than today, where people are kind of just trying to stay on track, and it was kind of hard to find space to overtake.
Well, fair play and a good prediction there. And I suspect if we do have dry conditions, like you say, that long start-finish straight to the best part of a mile is going to keep everyone close together and lead to some incredible 3-4 wide racing. But Logan, as we get ready to let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to on the broadcast today?
I'm going to go ahead and give a shout out to Waj for pulling this whole team together and getting me in on the effort. And just in general, giving me another reason to get more invested in this series. This is my first time running in it, so I think it'll be a lot of fun running with those two.
Oh, 100%. I'm with you on that, Logan. We're very happy to have you on the grid. But with that, we'll leave it there for now. Thank you for joining me for an interview this evening, and well done on your results, particularly across qualifying and races 1 and 2. I'm sure next time race number 3 may not be as difficult as it has been today, but still, that's the way it goes. Thank you for joining me this evening, and with that, have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too, Paul.
So hearing there, ladies and gentlemen, from none other than Logan McKenzie, we finally got there to speak to him. And when we did, well, what a good set of insights from the Project 26 for Alpha Touring Challenge driver. Talking about there the fact that firstly, really coming onto this grid this season, wanting to be able to gauge himself and just lay the foundations for racing in the NXTCC, not expecting to be the fastest out there, not expecting to be one of the championship contenders necessarily, and respecting the fact there's a high caliber of competition and he wants to fit into it. However, with all that today, he definitely showed in qualifying firstly that he had the nuance to know when to get the lap times on the board, and then going into races 1 and 2, enjoying a good scrap with the likes of both none other than Andrew Pike and Stuart Wyness. And respecting the fact that the Sim Racing Collective esports driver of Pike kept him honest and definitely did some very good racing, with Wyness always being a consideration in the background, so find himself right in the thick of it. Sadly, race number 3, it didn't quite work out, with him being one of the very first drivers on the scene when it all went wrong for the man at the front of the group. And sadly for Logan McKenzie at that point, when he did come out the pits, he was behind the field by a considerable margin when the safety car went in, and his race was really relegated to what was the back end of the field. So they decided to retire the car. However, for Logan McKenzie, it's all about essentially a learning experience, and of course, at Fuji in 2 weeks' time, you can imagine he'll take the experience from today, hope for dry conditions, and will we see him move up through the field even more so then? I suspect we will, ladies and gentlemen, and at the very least, Project 26 Alpha Touring Challenge with McKenzie at the helm alongside Swierdijk and Whitford, they're definitely going to be a big contender in that team's championship. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our interviews for this evening. A huge thank you to all 3 of our interviewees. We firstly heard from NXTGEN Blues, Joseph Wright in the AM class, who joined us straight away and indeed got to talk a bit more about his very successful debut day. And then we heard from the pair from Project 26 Alpha Touring Challenge. Firstly, Luciano Whitford, the pro class driver who made it 2 wins out of 3 and almost made it a triple podium. And we also heard from his teammate Logan McKenzie, who gave us his thoughts on what was battling towards the bottom end of the overall top 10 and also the difficulties of the final race. A huge thank you to all 3 of them for joining me for an interview, and with that, ladies and gentlemen, we look forward to plenty more racing from them as the season goes on. But with that, it's now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to know more about the NXTGEN racing community, or perhaps you want to be on the NXTCC grid or any of our other upcoming series, well, for all that and more, firstly, we definitely recommend you go to our official website. That's at www.nextgenracing.co.uk. That website appearing on screen as of now. And indeed, it is the home of all things NXTGEN racing. And on this website, you'll find out all the information regarding our ongoing and upcoming series, and also how to join the beating heart of the community that is the official Discord. Indeed, there's never been a better time to get on the grid at NXTGEN Racing, the home of clean and fair sim racing for all. But on top of that as well, if you don't want to go to our website, perhaps you're more of a Facebook person, we can of course join our official Facebook group. That's at facebook.com/groups/NextGen Racing. We'd also like to take a moment and say a big thank you to our sponsors, who do include PowerMaxed, Next Level Racing, Mark Sykes Designs, Joyce Design, Douglas Motorsport, Sam Cases UK, Falconer PC Builds and Support, Benji Sim Photos, and last but not least, of course, Doble Motorcycles. And if you're in the market looking for what is a very capable and powerful machine on two wheels or an ATV powered by the power of dreams, then why not consider Doble Motorcycles? Home to an expansive full range of Honda motorcycles, scooters, off-road bikes and ATVs, Doble Motorcycles is the UK's leading Honda motorcycle dealer. Indeed, with the family's rich racing history, you'll find through 3 generations of that history as embodied currently by Mikey Doble Racing and Mikey chasing glory in the BTCC, that if you're looking for a deal, you're definitely going to be in pole position to get one, and we recommend you head to their website today at doble.co.uk. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, attention now turns to next time, and in 2 weeks' time, on what will be, well, it won't be on a weekly basis, that's when the practice will occur, but on what will be Tuesday, the 27th of January 2026, we'll be back once again to continue the story of the season, and we will see all the drivers give it their all as they head to Japan for the Fuji International Speedway. A very different complexion of circuit, one that's just as much about its long start-finish straight as it is about its winding bends, and depending on what the weather decides to do, it could be another treacherous drive in the wet, or it could be dry skies, and with it, plenty of racing to come. Well, we'll tune in more then to see how all the story continues across our Pro, Prime and Am classes, but until then, ladies and gentlemen, we have been the Next Gen Racing community. I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh from Paul Walsh Productions, and until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, like our drivers, remember to stay on track. Good night. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, that's all from us here at Next Gen Racing, the home of clean and fair sim racing for all.